The old priest, draped in a wolf pelt, finished his prayers before the stone statue. He signaled for a basin of blood to be brought out, where a group of newly matured wolf-ear youths waited. As the full moon rose, the old priest approached the first youth, dipping his fingers in blood. Unlike the excited youths behind him, this boy, remained strangely detached. The priest traced a circle on my forehead, his hand morphing into a claw. Amidst the tribe's roars, he slashed my chest, drawing blood. I stared at the blood droplets, realizing this was no dream. I had truly transmigrated. The priest, seeing the failed Totem Atavism, spat in disgust and ordered me away. I didn't bother with dramatic retorts. These people barely spoke in coherent sentences, and I had no interest in wasting breath. Abandoned and exiled, I recalled my siblings' disdainful glares as they watched me leave the territory, forbidden from ever returning. Totem Atavism failure was rare, and even my father, the Wolf King, could not, or would not, protect me. This was a primitive bestial world, and my memories were fragmented, suggesting my brain hadn't fully developed. In this world, failing to achieve Totem Atavism meant one could not beastify or hunt, leading to certain death in the wild. Having analyzed my grim situation, I felt surprisingly little despair. I touched my furry wolf ears and shivered. I was completely naked, and the early spring air was biting. I had a dark forest ahead, home to the bear ear race. I knew better than to trespass. Even the Wolf King feared them once they beastified. Adapting to my new body's keen senses, I headed south toward the Ancestral Mountain, seeking a safer shelter than the open wilderness. Being alone in the wilderness at night was lethal, even for a wolf ear. By dawn, the morning mist clung to the grass as the sun rose. The wolf ear tribe called the southern mountains Zushan. Their language was primitive, consisting mostly of disjointed, single-word utterances. By a stream, a scrawny rabbit ear lowly crouched, her ears twitching as she scanned for danger. Finding the coast clear, she dashed to the water to drink, desperate to quench her thirst. As she cupped the water, she saw the reflection of a fox behind her, and her heart skipped a beat. Staying calm, she leaped across the stream just as the fox lunged, sprinting toward the bushes on her short legs. The fox was faster, its stench filling the air as she collapsed in despair. The brown fox prepared to snap her neck, anticipating an easy breakfast. Suddenly, the lowly spun and kicked with all her might, sending the 1.5-meter fox flying. As she scrambled up, she saw a figure in the mist aiming a wooden pole at her. Whoosh! A spear whistled past her, striking the fox. The beast stood dazed, clutching the shaft in agony. The fox collapsed. The lowly froze, terrified, as the figure approached with another weapon. As I neared, she saw my wolf ears. Exhausted from her rabbit-kicks-eagle maneuver, she collapsed to her knees. She closed her eyes, trembling, and whispered, afraid of pain. When no strike came, she opened her eyes to see me, the wolf-ear youth, skinning the fox with a stone shard. Overwhelmed by the gore, she fainted. When she awoke, she instinctively bared her teeth, but realized she was in a small cave. Seeing me by the entrance working with a strange wooden tool, she tried to sneak away. Realizing the exit was blocked by my frame, she prepared for a desperate fight. I spoke, "Don't fear. I only eat primal beasts, not beast ears. You're too weak to run." The beast ear tribes shared a common, simple language developed over centuries of interaction. The lowly was stunned. She had never heard a beast ear speak so fluently. Beastification failed, she ventured, hoping to negotiate her escape. I had been wandering for 10 days, eventually finding this cave halfway up a mountain near the stream. I had survived on wild vegetables and berries, but my wolf blood craved meat. I'd finally caught a rabbit using a primitive trap. Nourished, I'd spent 2 days crafting spears, leading to my rescue of the lowly. The local primal beasts were massive. I had previously been intimidated by a herd of deer larger than camels. My marksmanship had improved through practice. I'd hit the fox from 20 meters away. I glanced at the petite, naked lowly, feeling no attraction. She was far too young and scrawny. Seeing my situation, the lowly whispered, "I failed too." Herbivorous beast ears who failed to beastify couldn't digest plant fibers, leading to their abandonment. Their tribes lacked the resources to support the non-Beastified, sealing their fate. I ignored her, focused on my bow drill fire starter. I'd been struggling for days, only producing wisps of smoke. The lowly's stomach growled loudly, and she looked ready to faint from hunger again. I pointed to a leaf bundle, berries inside. She crawled over and devoured them, too hungry to worry about my intentions. I blew gently on the tinder, my bow drill spinning rapidly. A spark finally caught. As the lowly let out a satisfied sigh, a flame flickered to life in the dim cave. "Ah!" The little rabbit shrieked, startling me. She pointed at the growing flames with a terrified face, crying, "Disaster!" To the bestier races of this era, fire was a destructive catastrophe. I, however, roared in excitement, contrasting sharply with her fear. By nightfall, I had cleaned the fox pelt, scraping it with a stone knife and drying it by the fire. I planned to soak it in wood ash tomorrow to finish the curing process. I lacked a transmigrator system, despite having written many for my own characters. Fortunately, my clear memories of Earth, like a cinematic archive, provided me with essential survival and agricultural knowledge. The little rabbit stayed, realizing the wolf-ear youth wasn't interested in eating her. With nowhere else to go, she curled up on the fox pelt-covered grass. I ignored her, finding the fox meat far more appealing than the dirty, flat-chested girl. The roasted meat was pungent and unsalted, but my body's primal hunger made me devour it regardless. Gurgle. The little rabbit swallowed hard. I tossed her a piece of meat, asking, "Eat?" She snatched it and nibbled cautiously. I recalled that some herbivorous species consumed meat for protein. Having evolved into a human-like form, her body likely possessed the necessary digestive enzymes. They finished half the fox, nearly 4 kilograms, leaving me feeling satisfied. I planned to smoke the remainder the next day to preserve it. Before sleeping, I banked the fire with ash, then barricaded the cave entrance with logs and branches. As I turned, the little rabbit gasped at the faint green glow in my eyes, which terrified her. Sleep. I didn't comfort her. I had saved her because her tactical counterattack against a predator showed intelligence and courage, traits I needed in a companion. Plus, living alone was too lonely. I woke to a faint scent, finding the little rabbit curled against me, my hand gripping her short tail. She awoke, trembling, and instinctively grabbed something sensitive. "Hiss, let go," I snapped. She released me, whimpering, "Wolf, don't eat." I sneered, "You aren't tasty." Standing up, I realized I was naked, my morning anatomy quite prominent, which the little rabbit stared at blankly. I decided I needed to hunt rabbits to craft a skirt. I couldn't keep running around naked. I didn't want to risk any accidental injuries to my future happiness. Seeing her hunger, I kicked her lightly. "Let's go, find food." She beamed, realizing I had accepted her. They ate a bit of leftover fox meat for breakfast before heading down the mountain. I pointed to myself repeatedly. "I, Chun Mo." After several attempts, she mimicked me. "Chun Mo." I patted her head. "Yes." She chirped, "Mo." "Yes." I decided to name her Chunyu, after the jade rabbit. Once she understood the name was hers, she danced happily, clutching the stone spear I had given her. I carried 2 spears and a stone dagger, with a rope belt made of tree bark. By the stream, Chunyu found yellow flowers and ate them, offering some to me, and I declined. She insisted they were edible, and she seemed to thrive on them. Though I refused, she followed me obediently, feeling safe in my presence. At the stream, local wildlife fled at their approach, their speed blinding. I didn't bother chasing them. Instead, I showed Chunyu how to strip bark from branches using my stone dagger. I handed her the dagger. "Do it." She mimicked my movements, carefully peeling the bark. I waded into the stream, practicing my spear fishing. The water was clear and teeming with fish. I succeeded 3 times, catching enough for lunch. A cry from Chunyu drew me back. She had cut her finger and was bleeding. I chewed up some local hemostatic grass and applied the paste to her wound. This knowledge was inherited from my current body's instincts, common among the bestier races. Every species had its own survival techniques passed down through generations. I recalled my own village elders using similar herbal remedies. I began weaving a container from bark and branches, as Chunyu was still too clumsy to help with fishing. She sat quietly, watching my nimble hands with fascination. By noon, I finished a basket-like container, weaving twigs into a base and layering them upward, securing the structure with bark rope to prevent it from unraveling. I filled the basket with yellow clay from the creek, placed 3 fish inside, and headed back to the cave with Little Rabbit. The roasted fish smelled fragrant. Though Sister Yu disliked meat, I insisted she finish a whole fish, believing her body needed the nourishment. I ate the remaining 2 fish. Sated, I prepared to experiment with firing clay, knowing that drinking raw water was a health hazard. I recalled that beast-ear races lived longer due to their humanoid forms. Lucky wolf-ear individuals could reach their 30s. With a humanoid body, proper food, and hygiene, I believed I could reach 50 or 60. Their tribe's current lifestyle, drinking raw water and eating raw meat, was far too primitive. I used the clay to seal my stone stove, as the strong winds at the cave entrance made it difficult to maintain a fire. After applying the clay, I told Sister Yu, "Wait here, don't go out." I kept my speech brief for her to understand. Frightened, Sister Yu instinctively grabbed my arm. I smiled. "I'm going for food. I'll be back by sunset." Little Rabbit understood, as her mother often said the same. After a short rest, I took 2 spears and headed down the 300-meter slope to the creek. I planned to gather more stones and clay to patch the cave floor against pests, intending to attempt pottery with Little Rabbit tomorrow. Roar! A roar echoed. I dove into the grass. It sounded like a bear, either a primal beast or a barrier. I hesitated, then decided to investigate. Hearing a wild boar's shriek mixed with the roar, I rushed toward the sound, crouching low with my spears. In the creek, a 3-meter-long wild boar faced a smaller, 2-meter-tall brown bear. I identified the bear as a barrier tribesman. The water was stained red. The barrier man had a deep wound in his abdomen, but used his superior intelligence to dodge the boar's charges rather than fighting head-on. I watched, eyes gleaming. A boar that size could feed me for weeks. I gripped my spears, waiting for the right moment. The barrier man's beastification ended, and he shrank into a bald, muscular human. Clutching his bleeding stomach, he looked frustrated. He needed the creek's fish to survive the spring. Without the beast form, the boar charged. The man didn't flinch, grabbing the boar's tusks with his bare hands. Dragged through the water, the man held on until the boar paused, then slammed the beast's head into the creek bed. Bang! The boar thrashed, tossing the man into the water, where he lay motionless. The boar panted, exhausted. I realized this was my chance. Even if I couldn't kill it, my wolf-ear agility would allow me to escape. Silently, I lunged from the bushes. When the boar noticed me 10 meters away, a spear was already flying toward its eyes. The spear struck an eye, causing the boar to howl in agony. It wasn't a fatal blow, but it was a solid hit. Blinded and enraged, the boar charged. I turned and fled, knowing I couldn't win a close-quarters fight. After a short chase, the boar, already exhausted from the fight with the bear, stumbled and stood panting, its stamina spent. I returned, pelting the boar with stones from 6 meters away. The boar tried to intimidate me, but I retreated whenever it moved, then resumed my barrage. After countless stones, the boar collapsed, chest heaving. I marveled at the primal beast's tenacity. I relied on the hunter's tactic of attrition, tracking wounded prey until they succumbed to exhaustion. I worried the injured barrier man might return to claim the kill, but doubted he would risk it given his wounds. I cautiously approached. The boar stood up, forcing me to retreat. I repeated this cycle until sunset, waiting for the boar to finally stop breathing. As the first star appeared, I approached with a large rock and hurled it at the boar's head. There was no sound. I moved in and stabbed the boar's abdomen with my spear to confirm it was dead. Relieved, I looked up to see mountain eagles circling. The carcass was too heavy to move alone, so I decided to butcher what I could. I checked the earlier battle site. The barrier man was gone. I felt a pang of regret, as the man's presence nearby was a potential threat. Returning to the boar, I chased off the eagles, gutted the beast, and carved off a portion of meat. I packed the meat into my basket, covered the carcass with branches to deter scavengers, and headed back. At the cave, Little Rabbit smelled the blood and turned pale. "You?" I smiled. "I'm fine. Look at my prize." I boasted, proud of my first large-game hunt. Little Rabbit's eyes lit up as she saw the meat. She hopped around, her red eyes filled with admiration. "Roasted pork time." As she ate, she realized the pork was delicious and found herself less averse to meat than before. The next morning, they returned to the site, only for me to roar in anger. Who the hell ate my boar? Only a pile of bones remained. Small predators had picked it clean overnight. At least the bones were useful. I could sharpen the tusks into weapons. As I worked on the tusks, Little Rabbit examined the bones, her expression tightening. Bear? Bear? Where? I tensed. Little Rabbit pointed to the leg bone. I sniffed it. My wolf ear instincts confirmed her assessment. It really was a bear. I was shocked. The injured barrier man had returned to scavenge despite his wounds. Little Rabbit pointed to the tracks. I felt ashamed. Her alertness far surpassed my own. I realized I had much to learn. My previous life's mindset made me a poor hunter in this world. No more large beasts appeared at the creek. I spent my time teaching Little Rabbit to make pottery, relying on our stored food. I taught Little Rabbit to shape clay, but success was rare. After a week, we had only produced a few small bowls. Undeterred, we refined our firing techniques and kiln temperature. After 10 days of trial and error, we finally crafted a large clay pot. Little Rabbit, wearing a fox fur wrap, danced with joy, providing me with the emotional encouragement to keep working hard. I pinched her rabbit ears, causing her to twitch and make soft, alluring sounds that stirred my primal instincts. I wondered if different beast ear races could produce offspring. I recalled that such hybrids rarely awakened their beastification and were often ostracized. I had Little Rabbit braid bark rope while I fashioned a stretcher. I also used a scrap of fox fur to sew her a simple chest wrap. While checking my traps, I spotted the barrier bald man washing in the creek. I wasn't afraid. I knew from memory that wolf ear individuals could easily outrun the heavier barrier race if they kept their distance. The barrier man noticed me and smiled, despite me holding a spear. I remained vigilant. I noted the man's abdominal wound was healing, showing only a dark red mark. Surprised by the lack of infection, I turned to leave. The man suddenly roared, "Wolf!" I turned back, confused. The man touched his bald head and nodded at me. Sensing a gesture of goodwill, I nodded back cautiously before walking away. The barrier man looked disappointed and left the creek. Life settled into a routine. The barrier man often appeared, keeping a respectful 20-meter distance and occasionally tossing fish to me. I reciprocated with rabbits, as we had plenty of food entering late spring, and I wanted to avoid an excess of rabbit protein. The man watched me fish, eventually trying to spear fish himself with a stick, though he failed repeatedly. The man persisted, while Little Rabbit giggled at his clumsy attempts. After another failure, the man sat in the water laughing at himself. I gestured for him to throw the stick over. The man threw it with such immense force that I barely dodged it, a testament to his bear race strength. I used my stone knife to sharpen the stick into a proper wooden spear. Debating if the man was truly a friend, I concluded that the primitive beast ear races were simple-minded and likely harmless. Just as I prepared to return the spear, a wolf howl echoed. I, recognizing a primal beast pack, grabbed Little Rabbit and prepared to flee. As the barrier man roared to intimidate the wolves, I shouted for him to run. The man stood his ground. Several wolves emerged from the brush, led by one with distinctive white tufts on its temples. I realized these were my own kin, the wolf ear race, led by my father, the Wolf King. I hid in the brush with Little Rabbit to observe. The wolves reverted to human form, 6 of them surrounding the barrier man. After a brief exchange, the barrier man growled and stepped forward. The wolves immediately beastified in response. Little Rabbit whispered, "What are they doing?" I taught her the phrase, and she repeated it softly. I shook my head, telling her to stay put despite her fear. The barrier man beastified, fighting off the wolves as they swarmed him. Exhausted and wounded, the man reverted to human form and retreated, allowed to leave by the wolf ear group. I frowned, worried that the wolf ear territory was expanding too close to my home. Fearing the wolves would track our scent, I considered moving again. Back in the cave, I knew I had to decide quickly before the wolf ear pack discovered us. Unable to sleep, I noticed Little Rabbit seemed to have grown physically. I realized it was the mating season and felt a surge of desire, struggling to keep my composure. A noise outside my trap startled me. I grabbed my spear, ready for a fight. I saw the barrier man writhing on the ground, having triggered a trap. I remained hidden, spear ready, in case the man was a threat. The man called out, "Wolf, come out." Little Rabbit woke up, grabbing a spear and standing by me, and I signaled for silence. The man had survived the trap spikes thanks to his thick skin. Limping to the cave entrance, he sniffed the air and whispered, "I am leaving." Surprised by this farewell, I decided to speak, reasoning that the man would have attacked earlier if he intended harm. "Where are you going?" The man brightened at my voice, then looked somber, pointing toward the wolf ear territory. "Wolf ear, you must leave." Realizing the man had come to warn me of the encroaching danger, I stepped out. The man grinned. I vowed to remember the wolf ear clan's betrayal. Understood. The man pointed east, gesturing wildly about water and survival, which I struggled to interpret. The man beastified briefly to clarify. "Go east, where they do not beastify." I realized there was a settlement of non-beastifying beastier exiles to the east. I nodded, "Thank you." The bald man tilted his head, confused. I smiled and handed him the sharpened wooden spear I'd made for the barrier man yesterday. "It's yours." The bald man inspected the spear with surprise, waved at me, and departed into the cold moonlight. I considered asking him to stay, but knowing the barrier race's solitary nature and their lack of mutual trust, I let him go. Spring had arrived in the wilderness, bringing large herds of primal beasts that most beastier tribes dared not provoke. On the Ancestral Mountain, a towering peak featured a massive, crater-like lake at its waist, shimmering like a blue sapphire. Dozens of beastier families lived in caves along the crater walls. Unable to undergo beastification, they huddled together for survival. Their leader, a tiger-ear man, could not beastify, but possessed enough strength to kill a wild wolf with his bare hands. Over the years, they had learned to carve caves and hunt using stones, bone clubs, and wooden staffs. The leader took a dozen men to hunt. Despite their success rate rivaling those who could beastify, they remained marginalized and fearful of other tribes. Today's target, the bighorn rock sheep, was dangerous. A single strike could be fatal. The group descended through a pine forest and spotted a herd of bighorn rock sheep, currently gathered for the mating season. As the sheep leaders fought, the herd sensed danger and began moving north. Lacking sophisticated hunting tactics, the tiger ear group chased them, shouting and brandishing clubs, hoping to exhaust the herd. Soon, the elderly and young sheep fell behind. The hunters pelted them with stones, successfully wounding several. Before they could close in, a roar erupted from the east. 8 golden-bearded men charged toward them, causing the hunters to panic. The tiger ear leader hesitated, then ordered his men to pelt the approaching enemies with stones. Roar! Before the stones landed, the attackers beastified into massive lions, far larger than those on Earth, their thick hides shrugging off the rocks. Tired of lion ear oppression and facing starvation, the tiger ear leader gripped his club and charged. A brutal fight ensued. The clubs failed to inflict fatal wounds on the lions, while the hunters were quickly mauled. As his men fled, the leader fought desperately, smashing a lion's nose with his bone club, but he was soon surrounded and severely wounded. Looking around, the leader felt a surge of despair, resolving to take at least one enemy with him. The lions, mocking him, reverted to human form and even urinated on him to humiliate him. The leader lunged at one, but his injuries slowed him down. He tripped and was promptly pinned by a foot to his head. "Tisk, tisk," the lion-ear man sneered as his companions laughed. Whoosh! A spear flew from nowhere, piercing the abdomen of one of the laughing lion-ear men, who stared at the wound in confusion. Enraged, the lion-ear men beastified and roared, but saw only swaying grass, no attackers. Fearful and hesitant, they stood still until one lion prepared to finish off the tiger-ear leader. Another spear struck the lion in the eye. The remaining lions charged toward the source, but found nothing. As they turned back, a third spear struck another lion in the side, leaving a bloody hole. Overcome by fear of the unknown, the lions roared and fled east, the wounded ones trailing behind. The tiger-ear leader lay gasping, knowing he was dying, until the face of a wolf-ear youth appeared above him. I applied medicinal herbs to the leader's wound, though I knew the damage was likely fatal. The leader opened his eyes, pointing at my spear. "What is that?" Surprised by the clear speech, I replied, "A spear." The leader's eyes flickered. You failed beastification? Yes, I confirmed. The leader reached out. Stop. I paused, frowning. It's not enough. You'll bleed to death. The leader smiled at my lengthy response. You can. He smeared blood on my forehead. The other men cheered, welcoming me, impressed by both my camaraderie and the power I'd displayed. I had practiced my throwing technique extensively. By exploiting the lion's fear of the unknown, I had successfully driven them off. I had been ready to run, but was relieved when the lions retreated. The group carried the wounded leader and the sheep back up the mountain. I and Chunyu followed, carrying our gear in woven nets, drawing curious stares. Reaching the crater lake, I and Chunyu were struck by the breathtaking beauty of the blue water. The crater, formed by a meteorite, was 2/3 water, with birds circling above. They descended a natural slide into the crater. I observed the caves, which were either natural or carved into the walls by families. I estimated the population at 60 or 70, mostly adults with a few children. A burly wolf-ear man approached me. Wolf-ear from there? I nodded. The man smiled, patted my shoulder, and thumped his own chest. Kin. Realizing they were all failed beast-ear kin, a sense of solidarity formed. 2 wolf-ear women helped me choose a cave. I accepted, picking a 2-meter-wide cave for myself and Little Rabbit. It was dim, dry, and about 4 meters deep. Finding the dampness near the water unpleasant, I decided. We'll stay a few days, then build a grass hut. I planned to gather dry grass for bedding. As they stepped out, the wolf-ear women eyed Little Rabbit strangely, likely due to her different race. I smiled at them. A leopard-ear man approached and handed me a sheep leg, my reward for being the hero of the hunt. I noted the leg had been broken by stones, suggesting they had tools but lacked advanced processing. Bringing them into the Stone Age would be easy. The leopard-ear man was handsome and lacked the thick body hair of the wolf-ear men. I asked about the leader. The man sighed and shook his head. Death was inevitable. After the man left, the wolf-ear man who had stayed behind during the hunt approached. He patted his chest and said bluntly, leader. The primitive beast-ear race is remarkably naive. I smiled at their bluntness, ignoring the leopard-ear man's greedy gaze fixed on my mutton. I handed the meat to Little Rabbit, pointedly excluding the wolf-ear man. The man seethed, vowing to make me pay once he became leader. Ignoring him, I took Little Rabbit to Mirror Lake. I skipped stones across the clear water while she watched. Little Rabbit mimicked me, pouting in frustration when her stone failed to skip. I laughed at her, prompting her to stomp her feet and try again. I was actually scouting for fish, though the mountain water was too icy for me to dive in yet. A large white bird soon dove in and emerged with a struggling fish, confirming the lake's bounty. Returning with firewood and stones, they prepared to make fire to roast the mutton. At the cave entrance, 2 wolf-ear men were devouring my mutton. For others watched hungrily, too weak to challenge them for the scraps. I was stunned that they had raided my cave. Hey! They ignored my shout. The onlookers retreated, expecting the usual bullying by Langda. I strode forward and snatched the meat back. Langda, eager for a challenge to cement his authority, grinned menacingly. Langda roared, clearing the area. Other tribesmen gathered, knowing a beatdown was imminent. Langda was the second most powerful figure after the tiger-ear leader, known for internal bullying but external unity. The leopard-ear man stood by Sister Yu to witness the duel, as tribal law forbade interference. Though he'd seen my skill, he doubted I could best the larger, heavier wolf-ear in close quarters. I drew my spear. Langda brandished a blood-stained animal bone club, intent on breaking my arms. Langda grinned, confident that crippling me would secure his path to leadership. As I retreated, the crowd assumed I was afraid. Langda charged, only for me to suddenly wind up for a throw. Langda dismissed the spear as a mere stick, but it moved too fast to block. Luck was not on his side. Thwack! The spear pierced Langda's abdomen. He staggered, vision blurring, and tried to swing his club, but I easily dodged and struck his flank. My second spear pierced Langda's kidney. The wolf-ear collapsed, dead. The fight lasted barely 10 seconds, leaving the crowd in stunned terror. I glared at the remaining wolf-ear men, who immediately bowed in submission. The leopard-ear man wasn't surprised. He knew the lethality of my tools. He raised my hand, and the tribe cheered, validating the duel's outcome. I tossed the remaining mutton to the 4 hungry onlookers. "Eat," I commanded. They devoured the meat in a frenzy. As dusk fell, I used my bow drill to start a fire. Little Rabbit fetched water while the wolf-ear men watched, mesmerized by my actions. When the sparks caught, the tribe recoiled in terror, but I fanned the flames into a steady fire. "Disaster," the wolf-ear men hissed. Others gathered from afar, terrified to approach the disaster fire. I ignored them, building a stone stove for the clay pot. The leopard-ear man approached, curious. "Aren't you afraid?" I asked. "Afraid?" I replied. "But fire is a tool. It won't spread." The man didn't understand, but was deeply impressed by my confidence. As the water boiled, Little Rabbit added dried meat and crushed berries, creating a savory aroma. The crowd drooled, and even the children crept closer to watch. Little Rabbit befriended a cat-ear lowly, petting her face and admiring her flower crown. I took a sip of the broth, sighing in satisfaction. I offered a bowl to the leopard-ear man, who mimicked my cooling technique and drank, his eyes lighting up. Little Rabbit shared the soup with the cat-ear lowly, who finished it instantly, delighted by the sweet, savory flavor. I shared the soup with everyone, earning their awe through my strength and the miracle of fire. The next morning, I and Little Rabbit shared a moment of intimacy, though we stopped short of full union. Outside, I found the tribe gathered around the body of the tiger-ear leader. The brave leader had succumbed to his wounds. I felt a genuine sense of loss. Honoring his courage, the tribe collapsed his cave to serve as his tomb. Afterward, the leopard-ear man and others knelt before me, chanting, "Leader." Just like that, I became the tribe's new leader. 7 days later, the cat-ear lowly, now clean and groomed by Sister Yu, proudly showed off her clay bowl. Sister Yu patted her head, praising her with a tone reminiscent of me. Other children displayed their work, while the women wove bark rope nearby. Sister Yu glanced at the cave entrance, worried about my hunting party. Half a day's journey from the lake, I led a dozen men, now skilled with spears, as they stalked a herd of wild ox. With summer approaching, nearby beast herds migrated north, leaving the area below the mountain dangerous for the tribe. Hunting wild oxen became a necessity. Wild oxen are massive and aggressive, rarely targeted by beastkin. I believed that with proper coordination, spears could take down these large animals. 3 oxen grazed apart from the herd. As one bull looked toward the bushes, a figure lunged out and hurled a spear. The spear missed, but the oxen panicked and fled east. I stood up and signaled, "Throw." Whoosh! A dozen stone spears flew. Despite the oxen's thick hides, 2 were struck multiple times, though they continued to run. The group emerged, shouting loudly, which forced the oxen to turn and flee west. Since the main herd was to the east, driving them west played into my hands. I led the pursuit calmly. Exhausted by the chase and constant spear strikes, the oxen grew weaker and were forced to keep running. By late afternoon, the hunt concluded. 1 ox escaped, but a large and a small one were secured as spoils. The tribe cheered, looking at me with newfound admiration. I ordered them to carry the prizes home. It took 4 men to carry the calf and 6 or 7 for the adult. Night fell before they reached Mirror Lake. They built a campfire under trees. The flames kept most primal beasts at bay. Watch closely. I taught the tribe how to skin the calf properly, planning to tan the hide with wood ash for leather armor. Though I was a veterinarian, I had only dissected pigs and sheep. I improvised, trying to keep the spear-damaged hide intact. After removing organs and tendons, I realized that as leader, I had many such tasks to manage. Tribe development is a slow process, and without external help, I had to proceed one step at a time. The leopard-faced man, previously nameless, was dubbed Bao Jie by me due to his swift, leopard-like speed. Jie loved the name, especially after I drew the complex character, which he perceived as a powerful symbol. Standing together under the starry sky, I enjoyed the vast, wind-swept prairie. "Jie, do you have a tribe?" Jie, now understanding me, shook his head. He hadn't been exiled. He had simply left his mother after failing to undergo beastification. Leopards are solitary. Mothers raise their young until adulthood, then force them out regardless of whether they successfully beastify. Without the ability to beastify, Jie had to join others to survive. "Leader, teach me," he requested. I smiled, "Okay." I began teaching him to use a dagger. Jia was eager to learn, unlike the lazy little rabbit. Suddenly, wolf howls echoed nearby. I and Jia stood up, scanning the prairie. They remained calm, but the howls grew closer, accompanied by the roar of a bear. The tribe woke and armed themselves. Recognizing the bear's roar, I took 4 men to investigate. The barrier-bald man had been driven from his territory, losing his wooden spear in a fight with a saber-toothed tiger. He fled south, only to be hunted by a pack of wild wolves after his beastification energy was exhausted. He had been running from the wolves since dawn. Exhausted and wounded, he had used his final strength to kill one wolf, but the pack only grew more aggressive. He collapsed in the tall grass, gasping for air as the wolves closed in. A massive, 2-meter-long gray wolf, the pack leader, emerged, bearing its fangs. The bald man prepared for a final stand, but as the wolf king lunged, shouts erupted nearby. The wolves retreated as my group appeared. The bald man gasped, "Wolf," and fainted. When he awoke, he heard a whisper, "He's awake." Stiff with pain, he heard a familiar voice, "Baldy, I didn't think you'd make it." He looked around, confused by the structure, a tent made of wood and branches. I had built it to keep the wounded man out of the damp, infection-prone cave. I marveled at the man's resilience. His bearkin constitution had allowed him to survive multiple lethal bites. Such wounds would have killed any other beastkin. The bald man grinned, his eyes lighting up as I offered him a bowl of fragrant meat. The tribe watched in awe, curious about the connection between their leader and this stranger. After 3 bowls, the bald man regained some color. I decided to let him rest before asking what happened. As I left, the bald man grunted, "Wolf," in gratitude. I smiled, "I'm Mo. Just call me Mo." With the oxen and wild vegetables, the tribe had food for days. I used this time to plan on the cave walls. I taught Sister Yu basic sewing so she could instruct the other women. The women prepared tree bark rope for fishing nets. I assigned men to learn pottery, spear throwing, and stone tool grinding. I also needed to find salt, as the lack of it left the tribe weak and lethargic. Sister Yu worried when I mentioned leaving again. "How long?" 2 or 3 days, I promised, planning to track antelope to find salt deposits. 2 days later, I and my men dragged a wooden raft to the water, watched by the curious tribe. I pushed off, using a pole to navigate toward the center of the lake. The tribe cheered. As the water deepened, I prepared to test my fishing net. I threw the weighted net with all my might, just as I had seen in my memories. The net sank quickly. As I dragged it back, I felt a promising weight. My fishing net was too heavy to manage. The fish escaped through gaps, leaving only 1 medium-sized green fish. After struggling to untangle the net, subsequent casts failed. The bark rope proved brittle, snapping repeatedly and leaving large holes in the mesh. I rested on the raft, unfazed. I realized the bark rope was unsuitable and decided I needed better materials for future fishing. Using wooden paddles, I returned to shore. Sister Yu and the tribe cheered at the sight of the 3 fish. Amazed, I caught them without entering the water. Guang Tu, having finished his fish head, showed me his festering wounds, urgently seeking medical help. Seeing him point to his injury, I realized, "You want me to find herbs?" Guang Tu nodded vigorously. He then drew a lifelike plant on the ground with a stick, surprising me with his unexpected artistic talent. I was stunned by the vivid drawing, impressed that such a fierce man possessed such delicate observation skills. Proud of his skill, Guang Tu explained he had spent his life in the jungle, drawing everything he saw to pass the time. I noted the plant's appearance, promising to find it tomorrow and instructing Guang Tu to stay put while Sister Yu brought him food. Guang Tu nodded obediently. He didn't want to provoke me or face the deadly spears wielded by the tribe. I took 4 men, 2 wolf ear, 1 deer ear, and 1 cat ear, including a young wolf ear named Song, to forage. They checked their traps in the coniferous forest. Most were untouched, and 2 were destroyed with traces of blood but no prey. 1 trap held a squirrel, which I gave to Song to carry as rations. The cat ear man climbed a tree to retrieve 2 chicks and several eggs from a large nest. The others eagerly devoured the raw eggs, clearly satisfied. I led them toward the eastern gullies of Mirror Mountain to track mountain antelope. The first day yielded only a python and some rabbits. They found no signs of antelope. They entered the second gully with heightened caution, wary of the many venomous snakes. The deer-ear man found a shrub with spherical red flowers and began harvesting them excitedly. I examined the hollow, ball-shaped petals, intrigued by the plant I hadn't seen before. The deer-ear man gestured. Stomach, pain, eat. I realized this was part of the deer-ear tribe's ancestral knowledge. I ordered the group to collect the flowers. While they gathered, I climbed a boulder to scout. I noted the abundance of dandelions, which the tribe used to soothe inflammation in meat broth. A shadow flashed on the ridge. I spotted horns and immediately led the group in pursuit. Despite their superior stamina, they reached the summit breathless, finding a massive, cliff-like mountain peak resembling a giant stone tablet. Leader sheep, Song signaled. I spotted a gray-yellow, long-horned goat perched on a rocky outcrop. Go, I commanded. The goat watched the two-legged beasts calmly, confident they couldn't reach its precarious position. It was wrong. As the men threw their spears, the goat panicked, was struck, and plummeted from the cliff. Thud! The remaining goats fled toward higher, inaccessible cliffs. I tasted a piece of the cliff rock. It was bitter with only a faint hint of salt. Disappointed by the low salt content, I still collected some stone fragments to boil later, hoping for crystals. When I proposed crossing the peak, Song and the others warned me that the territory beyond belonged to a hostile beast transformation tribe. I realized these tribes were highly evolved, using their beast-like abilities and intelligence to dominate the food chain. Lacking proper supplies, I abandoned the northern route and led my group back. Crossing the mountains, they spotted figures near Mirror Mountain and immediately took cover. Unable to identify the intruders, I led my men to secure a high ground position. From behind a rock, they identified the group, Lion-Ear and Dog-Ear tribes. Song grew tense, identifying the Dog-Ear as a savage, despised canine race. These creatures were smaller than wolves, spotted, and possessed sharp fangs and a keen sense of smell, known for raiding others. I recognized the Lion-Ear men tracking their scent, a revenge party for my previous ambush. Song, go back and call for reinforcements. I ordered. Song sprinted away. I instructed the others to prepare an ambush, throw their spears, and retreat into the forest. They had previously rigged the area with traps, which would help buy time. The men took their positions behind rocks, each armed with 2 spears, one for throwing, one for melee. The lead Dog-Ear man stopped 50 meters away, his nose twitching as he sensed danger. He growled and transformed, followed by his pack. The leader locked eyes with my hiding spot. As the leader opened its mouth to howl, I threw a spear. The beast dodged with terrifying reflexes. The others threw their spears, and the cat-ear man successfully struck a target, triggering a shrill, irritating howl. Run! I and my men retreated into the coniferous forest, pursued by the howling pack. The Dog-Ear tribe's explosive speed was alarming, closing the distance rapidly. The cat-ear man, nearly caught, scrambled up a pine tree. The pursuing Dog-Ear men transformed back to their humanoid forms to climb after him. As they shifted, the cat-ear man threw his spear, piercing a Dog-Ear man's throat. Another attacker hesitated, then signaled 2 others to surround the tree. Before they could climb, the cat-ear man leaped to an adjacent tree, vanishing into the dense canopy. I crossed a marked trap zone, taunting the 3 pursuing hyenas. One accelerated, falling for the bait. The hyena plunged into a hidden pit, wailing. As the others hesitated, a spear flew, striking another. Another howl echoed. With cries rising from all directions, the pack realized the danger of the coniferous forest and huddled together. The Lion-Ear men arrived. Their leader grabbed a hyena, snarling, "Pursue." The hyena trembled, reporting, "King, our kin are dead." The Lion-Ear king counted 7 survivors left, scanned the dark forest, and tossed the hyena aside. He tracked the scent to the trap, checked the dying hyena, and retrieved his spear from a corpse. Stroking the bloodied weapon, his eyes glinted as he hurled it with full force, embedding it deep into a pine tree. His tribesmen watched in shock. The Lion-Ear king smiled, ordering them to collect the spears. He would study this weapon before crushing these boneless prey who couldn't undergo beastification. Qingyosu arrived as my group regrouped. I praised the cat-ear man for his calm, strategic mind. Bao Jie was relieved to see them unharmed. After waiting, I concluded the enemy had retreated. The cat-ear man confirmed the retreat, but I grew wary. Their spears were gone. Fearing the primitive conflict, I realized we needed defenses and decided to utilize cowhides. 3 men worked tirelessly, grinding stones into axes. I fashioned handles, using stone daggers to carve grooves, then burning them to dry the wood before chiseling. After 2 days, 3 stone axes were ready. I assigned the deer-ear man to fell pines while I joined the women. Sister Yu had discovered a flexible, unknown thorny vine near Mirror Lake. I arranged sticks, bound them with thorns, covered both sides with tanned cowhide, and added leather strap handles. I chose this design because my primitive tools couldn't easily craft solid wooden shields. The women were talented. Little Rabbit quickly crafted a thorn-hide shield. I held a small square shield, spotting the cat-ear lowly catching bugs nearby. I whistled. The stoic lowly trotted over. I handed her a stone. "Throw it at me." I retreated 5 meters, raised my shield, and shouted, "Do it." The lowly threw the stone with all her might. It struck my thigh. I winced at the surprising strength, rubbing my leg while shouting, "Aim for the head." Hesitantly, she threw again. Bang! The stone hit the shield. The test succeeded. I then had Sister Yu test it with a spear. Little Rabbit, though timid, threw the spear, which struck the shield. Pass. I called the cat-ear man, while Chun Feng retreated 20 meters. After a miss, the second spear hit the shield. As I prepared to shoo away a nearby child, the cat-ear lowly whispered, "Put wood there." I laughed, realizing I should just mount the shields on posts for testing. I blamed Little Rabbit for my distraction, resolving to practice self-restraint. I signaled the cat-ear man to stop and patted the lowly's head. "Smart girl." Testing showed the shield held up well against spears, though the stone weapons were the limiting factor. I assigned the cat-ear man to patrol the forest edge permanently. With no lion-ear retaliation, I trained 5 men in shield and spear tactics. Sister Yu found medicinal herbs, which I dried and cataloged. I now had 7 known remedies. Food remained a priority. I planned to start farming for winter and hadn't forgotten about salt. I successfully refined crude salt crystals from black rocks by boiling and filtering. The lion-ear man, Guang Tu, drank most of the salted fish soup, recovering enough to jog along the shore. As they prepared to hunt, the women wove grass sandals to protect their feet from sharp terrain. I encouraged better hygiene, including bathing and rinsing mouths after meals. "Going down the mountain tomorrow?" Sister Yu asked, her rabbit ears drooping. I sat on a fox fur rug. "Yes, just a short hunt nearby." She nodded, working by the firelight. Curious, I tugged her tail. She looked up with watery eyes. "What's wrong?" She whispered, "You don't mate with me. The others say we must." I paused, struggling with the cultural gap regarding her age. She turned away, but I reached out from behind. The next morning, I stretched, feeling the physical toll of the night. I whistled, and 10 men gathered, 5 with shields and spears, 5 carrying extra ammunition. "Let's go." Luck was on their side. They encountered a herd of mountain deer shortly after descending. I and my group easily hunted the herd, regardless of the leader's impressive antlers. They hunted 4 deer and captured a weaned fawn, which I carried back to our Mirror Lake home. 3 days after the hunt, following a heavy rain, the children played by the lake, petting the captured fawn. The fawn had been injured when the adult deer panicked and trampled it, allowing me to capture it alive. With a broken leg, I decided to keep it alive and feed it, planning to eat it once it grew larger. I spent the last 3 days resting in the cave with Little Rabbit, taking a break from our usual routine. Little Rabbit had a strong desire for intimacy, especially after I played with her ears. She would always sun her fox pelt the next day. Realizing I couldn't grow complacent, I initiated a second search for salt. With food supplies stable and traps set in the coniferous forest, the tribe remained secure. I took Lu Ming and Xiong Chumo, the name I jokingly gave the bald bearkin, on the expedition. Xiong Chumo happily accepted the name, pleased that it shared the mo sound with mine. The trio headed west, planning a 2-day trip to avoid leaving our home vulnerable for too long. On a clear day, Xiong Chumo skewered a fleeing mountain sheep with a spear throw, turning it into a giant kebab. I acknowledged his impressive skill. Xiong Chumo's effective range was around 50 to 60 meters, limited only by the quality of his stone tools. With practice, Xiongqiumo would become a formidable battlefield asset without needing to rely on full beastification. Xiongqiumo retrieved his prize while Lu Ming followed with a basket of herbs and 2 wild pheasants. I tasked Lu Ming with starting a fire, continuing to train him in complex tasks to improve his practical skills. Lu Ming, a deerkin, felt honored by the responsibility. I coached Lu Ming on fire drilling, while Xiongqiumo attempted to skin the sheep using a stone dagger. When his dagger snapped, Xiongqiumo searched for a replacement stone and found a mysterious dark green rock. Xiongqiumo, a sensitive soul who enjoyed drawing, was intrigued by the stone. He brought the soccer ball-sized rock to me, and I recognized it as jade. Xiongqiumo asked if he could smash it. I nodded. While jade was precious in my past life, here, it was simply a material for sharper tools. After the jade shattered, Xiongqiumo used a sharp shard to skin the sheep, finding it far superior to stone. I collected the fragments, keeping 2 large pieces in Lu Ming's basket and grinding another shard with a small hammer. Lu Ming successfully started the fire. The scent of roasting meat filled the air, keeping smaller predators at bay due to Xiongqiumo's bare scent. While eating, I spotted a figure in the distance, but Xiongqiumo couldn't see it. Even in human form, their senses were still influenced by their beast bloodlines. Xiongqiumo offered to investigate, but I declined, preferring not to provoke potential threats. I decided to ignore the stranger unless they approached. After eating, the group continued their search for salt and explored the surroundings. Unbeknownst to them, a nimble figure with leopard ears followed them, sniffing the lingering scent of roasted meat. That night, my wolf-like night vision kept watch. Xiongqiumo wanted to confront the stalker, but I restrained him. Realizing we were in someone else's territory, I hoped to gather information and had Lu Ming light another fire. The firelight acted as a beacon in the dark, keeping the creatures of the mountain at a distance. I threw a piece of roasted meat toward the rock where the stranger was hiding. I sat back, letting the others rest while I and Xiongqiumo remained alert. At dawn, Lu Ming woke up to find a stranger crouching by the fire. The stranger was eating a rib, and I was watching calmly, putting Lu Ming at ease. The visitor was a small leopardkin, likely of snow leopard descent, with a fluffy gray-white tail. I had lured her in with 3 pieces of meat, observing her caution. Up close, I noticed she was missing canine teeth and appeared malnourished, likely unable to hunt. She ate silently, though I couldn't help but notice her disproportionately large chest, wondering how it affected her agility. When Lu Ming stood up, the leopardkin grabbed the meat and fled into the night. I was annoyed at the missed opportunity to question her, but Lu Ming apologized for scaring her off. As dawn approached, I decided to rest, planning to head home if we found no further leads. In the morning, the leopardkin was gone. The trio explored deeper into the Ancestral Mountain, crossing a rocky ridge to find a stream. I realized we had circled back near our old cave. Leader, Lu Ming pointed out a group of bighorn sheep-ear tribe members blocking the path. Xiongqiumo prepared to fight, but I held him back as more sheepkin appeared. They were members of the rock sheep tribe. The 2 groups stood in a tense standoff until 3 sheepkin men approached. The leader, a muscular man, demanded they leave his territory. Xiongqiumo roared and partially beastified, causing the sheepkin to recoil. I stepped forward and shouted, "I am looking for salt. I will leave once I find it." The group was stunned by my fluent speech, a trait usually reserved for high-ranking priests. The leader asked, "What? Salt?" I tossed a piece of black rock from Lu Ming's basket to the man. The man sniffed it, his eyes lit up, and he tasted it. He understood. I noticed the man glancing toward the deep mountain ravine. I realized the rock sheep beastkin likely frequented that area to replenish their salt. I decided to wait for them to leave, but the man suddenly suggested, "Exchange." I searched my memories. My father, the Wolf King, had once engaged in such trades. I nodded. The man approached cautiously, wary of Xiongqiumo, and gestured, "Leopard ear, my kinyu." Through gestures, the man conveyed his hope that I would deal with the leopard ear predator nearby. Recalling the small leopard from the night before, I realized it was likely a rival encroaching on their salt territory. I smiled and agreed. The rock sheep herd moved toward the ravine, with my trio following as their bodyguards. They soon reached a 5-meter-wide waterfall that looked like a silver belt against the cliff. The rock sheep beastkin became vigilant, scanning the surroundings for danger. As the herd reached the waterfall, they leaped onto the rocks and vanished behind the water. A water curtain cave? I recalled Chinese myths. The herd was vulnerable while entering the cave in a long, scattered line. Sensing the cave held what I needed, I stayed back to observe and spotted a stealthy figure nearby. I remained silent, waiting for the herd to enter while the remaining beastkin kept a wary eye on my group. I and Xiong Chumo sat down to eat dried meat, waiting for the herd to finish. The herd soon emerged, jumping onto the platforms to drink from the stream below. Suddenly, a gray-white snow leopard lunged from the grass, attacking a sheep and causing chaos. Xiong Chumo roared and charged in his beast form. The snow leopard, sensing the threat, abandoned its prey and fled. Xiong Chumo reverted to human form, grinning. I had instructed him only to use his beast form as a scare tactic. It was the same snow leopard from before. It cast a resentful, familiar look at me before disappearing. The leopard couldn't understand why these carnivores were helping the sheep. With the salt replenishment complete, the rock sheep leader approached and nodded in gratitude. As the herd left, Lu Ming asked, "Leader, why help them?" I patted his shoulder. I knew Lu Ming, with his deer bloodline, understood the value of finding the salt source. You'll understand later. I wanted to build a network. The rock sheep herd was vast, and I saw potential in managing them for future livestock farming. Let's go inside. Inside the misty cave, they chiseled away white-crusted salt rocks. Lu Ming even tasted the raw salt. It was a narrow, natural salt cave. After collecting enough, they left. They headed back toward Mirror Lake, expecting a journey of over a day. I sensed someone tracking them but ignored it, pushing forward until nightfall when they finally rested. They seasoned their roasted pheasant with the crushed salt. It was bitter, but I was satisfied to finally have flavor. As my companions slept, a figure appeared near the camp, watching me intently. I tossed a piece of meat toward her. She didn't beast form, proving she wasn't there to attack. The small leopard ate the meat and moved closer. I threw another piece. Eventually, the leopard sat just meters away. Seeing her cute expression, I approached. She hissed and bared her teeth, tail twitching in warning. I smiled. "Stop hunting those sheep. It's too dangerous." I noticed her bruised face and missing tooth, injuries from her fight with the rock sheep beastkin. She looked away, crunching on bones. I said softly, "Come with us. I'll provide food." She hesitated, then dropped the bone and ran off. Solitary beastkin rarely joined groups, fearing enslavement. I wasn't discouraged. The next day, I realized the small leopard was still secretly following them. Back at Mirror Lake, I was relieved the Lioneer tribe hadn't attacked in my absence. I immediately began boiling the salt, filtering out impurities until it crystallized. It was crude salt, lacking advanced purification, but it would suffice for now. I knew my strong body could handle it. Ancient humans survived on less. I stored the salt, planning to use it as a reward system for my tribe's labor and combat efforts. After tasting the salted fish soup, the tribe's morale and work ethic soared. After a day of rest, I began building a wooden house, though the lack of metal tools made it difficult. The cat ear Loli arrived with a group of terrified children. I put down my stone axe and asked, "Xiao Mao, tell me." She pointed toward the other side of Mirror Lake. "Leopard ear, beastkin." Remembering the small leopard, I patted her head. "It's okay. Take me to see." Spruce trees west of Mirror Lake serve as the tribe's playground, where children are restricted to the immediate vicinity. Children collect stones and mud sculptures under the trees. I praised their efforts, noting the value of developing manual skills through play. I checked the cliff for the little leopard, then had the cat ear Loli light a fire to roast venison. The little leopard soon appeared, watching me from high on the cliff. I gestured for her to come down. Seeing only one child present, she decided to approach. As the little leopard ate, the cat ear Loli watched her, eyeing the beastkin's chest with envy before looking down at her own. I gathered branches and sent the Loli to fetch 2 men to carry wooden stakes. Without consulting the little leopard, I began building a triangular tent under the spruce, assisted by the cat ear Loli. After eating, the little leopard lounged on the rocks, watching me work. By day's end, the tent was finished, though I saved the deer hides for others. Women were busy tanning hides with wood ash and sharpening bone needles to sew vests for the men. I covered the tent with branches and moss for waterproofing, then lined the interior with grass and a sheepskin. Yours, I told the little leopard before leaving with the cat girl. The little leopard remained skeptical, preferring her cave. Once she crawled inside. However, the comfort lulled her to sleep with a smile. The tribe grew accustomed to the two beastkin living at opposite ends of the lake, with the western one often playing with the children. 20 days passed. The weather turned humid. 2 9-square-meter wooden cabins stood by the lake. I standardized measurements using a 1-meter wooden rod based on my past life, ensuring the tribe understood my requirements. This rod became the tribe's ruler, used to cut all timber to my exact specifications. I buried 1-meter-long stakes for stability, laid floorboards over the dirt, sealed gaps with baked mud, and covered them with animal skins. To solve drainage issues, I abandoned flat roofs for a triangular, tent-like structure. I even built a small fireplace inside, modeled after videos from my past life, which functioned surprisingly well. One cabin was mine, the other housed the 6 children. I struggled to craft a functional longbow. Even with jade arrowheads, the range and lethality were poor due to inferior materials. Frustrated, I tossed the bow aside. Chinyu approached, announcing the hunting team's return. I had delegated leadership to Bao Jie, who had proven highly effective. Though I stepped back from daily hunts, my influence remained absolute. The tribe viewed me as a godlike figure. Bao Jie presented 2 live wild chickens. I was pleased. The tribe now held a small deer and 3 goats in a makeshift pen. The lame deer was docile, but the goats remained wild. I hoped to domesticate their future offspring. Bao Jie reported no encounters with other tribes, boasting of their readiness to fight. I had been teaching the tribe to speak clearly, using tools like clay pots as visual aids. I plucked the flight feathers from the chickens, confusing Bao Jie and Chinyu. I explained it was for farming, then had the birds tied near the cabin. I planned to break their wings to prevent flight and eventually build a covered coop. Their peace was interrupted when Xiong Chumo returned with bad news. The cave bear race had arrived. The cave bears, ancient ancestors of modern bears, migrated north every summer to find mates. Some cave bears had evolved into human form, possessing great intelligence and strength. Their presence caused prey to migrate, making hunting difficult for local tribes. I knew they couldn't win a fight against the cave bears. I reassured the tribe that they could rely on food from the Ancestral Mountain if necessary. Bao Jie revealed the true danger. The cave bears demanded human sacrifices. The cave bear priest held an atavism ritual for their youth, requiring sacrifices from neighboring tribes. I questioned the origins of this ritual and the existence of the ancestral totem. Historically, the tribe surrendered game and failed beastkin, who were then eaten by the cave bears. It was essentially protection money paid in blood. The tribe's land had been granted by a cave bear descendant long ago. The first leader had paid tribute to ensure the tribe's survival. Over time, the demands increased, turning the tradition into an annual nightmare. I declared, traditions are meant to be broken. This ends now. Bao Jie didn't fully understand, but felt a glimmer of hope that I would liberate them. Xiong Chumo, trusting me implicitly, prepared to follow my lead. Realizing they lacked the strength to fight, I considered fleeing as the best strategy. I had never been attached to this location and preferred a site near a river for better resources. I needed to tread carefully, as my authority was not yet absolute enough to force a migration. While I pondered, the little rabbit entered and scolded the cat ear lowly for climbing on me, interrupting my thoughts. I asked why she was upset. She reminded me it was night, and I decided to let the lowly sleep there. The little rabbit, though unhappy, obeyed me. The cat ear lowly stretched and curled up in my arms to sleep. The little rabbit sat opposite me and brought up her kin. Zushan, over there, my people. What about them? I asked. They were with me, but he disappeared. She pointed south of Zushan. I was intrigued. You came from Zushan? She nodded, struggling to count on her fingers. 7 days, I arrived. 6 or 7 days was a manageable journey for her tribe. She described her home, a cave on a hillside where she lived with her mother and family. After failing her beastification, she crossed a forest to reach Zushan. I marveled at her luck surviving alone for a week. Fruit, Food, plenty. She drooled at the memory. I patted her back, planning for the future. The wilderness was too harsh for my group, especially in winter. The next day, I led my hunters down the mountain. Bao Jie and 9 others were now skilled with spears, 6 equipped with thornhide shields. With cowhide vests, they had formed a basic combat unit, giving me confidence against the Lion-Ear tribe. The plains were empty, confirming Bao Jie's claim that herds vanished from Mirror Lake during this season. Heading north, they found a river. Antelope leaped across, sensing danger. Spears flew, pinning one to the ground. The hunters were calm. Their success rate had soared. I ignored the dying antelope, focusing on a slow-moving, yellowish rock on the bank, a giant tortoise. I threw my stone axe. Bang! The axe struck the shell, and the tortoise retracted its head, remaining motionless. A tribesman waded across, stepped on the tortoise, and stabbed it with a spear. The spear snapped. As the man prepared to use a stone hammer, I stopped him and ordered him to carry the meter-long tortoise back. As others hauled the antelope, a loud elephant trumpet shook the ground. Bao Jie panicked. "Leader, run!" I stood firm, watching a massive herd of beasts stampede from the north, chased by a dark line. The line resolved into a herd of giant white-haired elephants. "Bao Jie, have you seen these before?" "No." They prepared to flee. I noticed humans driving the beasts. "Leader, retreat." I led my men to hide in the grass 100 meters away to observe. A bear's roar echoed from the west. I sent the hunters back and took 2 men to investigate. A massive brown bear stood off against 2 giant elephants, while others drank from the river. The bear was over 4 meters tall, but the white elephants were even larger, 6 meters long and 3 meters at the shoulder. The elephants charged. The bear reverted to a burly, hairy man and fled toward me. The 2 white elephants also transformed into 2-meter-tall women, calming their beasts. I watched, wary of the bearkin. I knew beastification had limits, usually 3 times a day, with duration tied to size. I didn't want to risk a confrontation. As they retreated, a wolf howl drew my attention to a boulder where a man in wolf skins with blood-red markings stood. A wolf race priest. I realized a major conflict was brewing. The bearkin fled south. I followed suit. Back at Mirror Lake, I told the cat-ear man to monitor the plains for opportunities. Chinyu prepared mushroom soup, safe to eat thanks to their local knowledge. A figure appeared on the roof, the little leopard girl. "Mian, come down and eat." Mian wore a hide wrap and grass skirt, gifts from the cat-ear lolies group. She was smarter than Xiong Chumo, having named herself. "No," she said haughtily. Chinyu disliked her, sensing a threat, especially since I often stared at Mian. Mian spoke. "You leave. The 100 races are going to fight." I grew serious. "What do you know?" "The priests are going to fight the bears." I knew the solitary beastkin visited their priests annually to offer tributes. "Your priest told you?" She nodded. "Run. The lions are coming for you." I sneered. The Lion-Ear tribe was opportunistic, but I wouldn't be a sitting duck. I needed a new home to protect my people from the coming war. Late at night, Xiong Chumo rushed in. "Mo, the forest, so many wolves." He reported that the cat-ear man was surrounded in the trees. I whistled, gathering 15 men to head for the coniferous forest, followed by a nimble shadow. Near the forest, the injured cat-ear man ran toward them. "Leader, watch out." "Circle formation," I ordered. 6 men with shields formed a perimeter, spears pointing outward. They had practiced this in line formations while building and fishing, preparing for exactly this moment. A group of 20 or 30 gray-eared wolves emerged. I immediately recognized the pack leader and my own younger brother and sister among them. The Wolf King, catching a familiar scent, ended his beastification and coldly ordered, "Come out." I stepped forward with a spear. The Wolf King's eyes flickered with complexity. "You are still alive." I felt no familial bond or fear. "This is my territory. Get out or die." The wolves were stunned that the outcast they had discarded not only survived, but now led a group of failures, and that I could speak so fluently. The Wolf King grinned, preparing to Beastify and slaughter the group to reassert his authority over his defiant son. Before the king could transform, my brother lunged. I shouted, "Don't move." I used my spear like a staff, striking the charging wolf in the gut. As it fell, I pinned its head under my foot. "Brother, whether you Beastify or Godify, You are still my little brother." The pack froze, shocked that I suppressed my beastified brother with a mere wooden pole. Two hidden wolves suddenly lunged, employing a classic ambush tactic. "Throw!" Bao Jie commanded the group. 7 or 8 spears flew, skewering the wolves before they could even jump. Their howls echoed in the dark. The Wolf King's eyes filled with fear. His mission was to capture these people for a blood sacrifice, but he had already lost 6 warriors. A young female wolf, resembling me, stepped forward, feigning pity. "Brother, release him." I recognized her. She was the sister who used to manipulate others for food and had been ruthless during my exile. Recalling her cruelty, I raised my spear, aiming at my brother's head. The Wolf King and sister cried out, "No." I drove the spear into the ground beside the brother's head and released him. The brother, reverting to human form, met my gaze, realizing my intent. I whispered, "Take them and leave." I spared my brother, remembering the boy's genuine concern during my initial exile. I realized the brother's earlier lunge was an attempt to tackle me before the king could strike, not a lethal attack. "Brother, be careful. Leave this place," the brother whispered, limping back to his father. The Wolf King stared at me, feeling humiliated that his outcast son had bested him. The pack retreated. As they left, the manipulative sister glanced back one last time. I realized we were being hunted as livestock for the tribe's pre-war blood sacrifices. Back at Mirror Lake, I gathered my people. The 100 races don't see us as equals. We must leave. I promise. One day we will return and repay this humiliation. Bao Jie cheered, and the tribe roared in agreement, venting their long-held frustrations. They burned their huts, collapsed their caves, and fled Mirror Lake under the cover of night. The next morning, high-ranking figures arrived at the empty lake, howling in frustration. South of Ancestral Mountain, a mother panda was cornered by 5 jackals, shielding her chubby, panda-eared son. The jackals waited for her beastification to expire, knowing the pair would then be easy prey. The mother lunged, but the jackals dodged, exhausting her. Hearing her son scream, she rushed back to drive off attackers. As her beastification faded, she grabbed her son and fled. The jackals pursued, cutting off their escape route. Desperate, the mother hoisted her son up a bamboo stalk. Climb. Distracted, she was swarmed by jackals. She fought back, but was eventually dragged down and pinned. The boy sobbed, "Mother." "No," she screamed, forbidding him to help. She was torn to pieces. The jackals waited patiently for the boy to lose his grip. As sunset approached, the boy's arms grew weak. A jackal shook the bamboo, accelerating his descent. The pack gathered, eager to feast. Exhausted, the boy let go, closing his eyes to await death. A woo! Instead of pain, he heard the jackals fleeing. He opened his eyes to the sound of whistling air. Bamboo spears rained down, turning the jackals into pincushions. A wolf-ear man emerged and offered his hand. "Little one, are you okay?" The boy awoke later, smelling delicious food. He crawled out of a bamboo shelter. Outside, he saw a bustling camp with bamboo structures and people working. A cute rabbit-eared girl named Chunyu approached him, wearing a bamboo leaf skirt. He recoiled, but she smiled. "Don't be afraid." A man chewing a bamboo leaf called out, "Chunyu, bring him over to eat." Coming. Recognizing his savior, the boy took the girl's hand and followed. My group had crossed the mountains 6 days ago, settling in this bamboo forest near a river. 3 days into their settlement, they had rescued the boy while hunting and discovered a bounty of bamboo shoots. Bamboo was easy to harvest, and I planned to build a defensive wall, my first major project in this world. A young boy sat on the ground, staring curiously at the large turtle shell beneath the wolf-eared man. I stood up, dragged the shell over, and offered, "Sit here." As the boy sat, he felt a wave of heat and spotted a fire in a nearby pit. Instinctively, he recoiled, fearing the flames. I held him down gently, saying, "It's just fire, not a disaster." "Sister," you handed the boy a roasted chicken wing. "Eat." The boy sniffed the aroma, salivated, and forgot his fear of the fire. Seeing the boy burn his mouth, Chen Feng took the wing and taught him to blow on it first. Bao Jie approached with 2 tribesmen, wearing straw sandals and leather leggings. "Leader, the traps are set." I looked around, missing Xiong Chimo. "Where is the bear?" Bao Jie scratched his head, explaining that Xiong Chumo had smelled his own kind and insisted on searching for them alone. I smiled, guessing the cunning Xiong Chumo was likely tracking a female brown bear. Good work. Rest now, and focus on learning to speak and make tools, I instructed. The group nodded. I chose the bamboo sea for its livability and my own expertise in bamboo weaving, a skill passed down by my grandfather. I wanted the men to learn the craft to save the women for other tasks, especially since many lacked shoes for the rugged jungle. I assigned the wall-building project to the clever Lu Ming. Mao Yi, the cat-eared man, took charge of night patrols, adopting the name Mao Yi. I learned from the cat-ear loli that Mao Yi was her half-brother. I named her Xiao Maoyue. I paired Mao Yi with 2 lynx-ear tribesmen to form a night watch team. Bao Jie was tasked with checking traps, language study, and training. Sister Yu managed the women, who gathered broad leaves for summer skirts and reeds for potential footwear. The next day, I planned a 4-meter-high bamboo wall. I had the men cut 6-meter bamboo poles, burying 1 meter deep to ensure stability along a 100-meter perimeter. 5 days later, an exhausted Xiong Chumo returned and immediately fell asleep. The wall construction progressed quickly, with the foundation finished in 3 days and the bamboo installed over the next 2. Xiong Chumo was shocked by the progress, noting 2 walls were already standing. Unable to sharpen the bamboo tips with stone tools, I decided to hunt for copper and tin ores to forge bronze. Iron was currently impossible due to the low temperatures of their primitive kilns. After a rainy spell, I dried bamboo in the sun to prepare it for weaving. I also began experimenting with bamboo bows, which were easier to craft than wooden ones. Little Rabbit panted, fanning her face in the heat. I worked on a bamboo table, fitting a small piece into a larger hollowed-out pole. "Want to go swimming?" I asked the heat-averse Little Rabbit. Sister Yu shook her head. "I don't like water." I returned to my work until Xiao Maoyue ran over, panicked. "Leader, Yang Xiao was bitten." "By what?" I asked. "A snake." I rushed to the tent, where Lu Ming was feeding the unconscious Yang Xiao a purple root. "How is he?" I asked. Yang Xiao was a hybrid, born of an antelope ear mother and a deer ear father. Lu Ming looked grave. "Snake grass. It might not work." They had already administered the standard snakebite remedy found near the Ancestral Mountain. I checked the boy's weak pulse and blackened leg. "Where were you bitten?" "By the river," Xiao Maoyue replied fearfully. "Stay away from the river," I ordered. The tribe sighed, believing the boy was beyond saving. I, a former veterinarian with knowledge of herbal medicine, realized the local plants were too unfamiliar to provide a quick cure. A man ran in. "Leader, Mao Yi caught a bull-eared man." "A bull-eared man?" I saw the captive, who appeared calm and unafraid. "Leader, he broke our traps," Mao Yi reported. The elderly bull-eared man wore a loincloth and a bird-patterned chest tattoo. "Are you the leader?" the man asked, speaking with surprising fluency. "Yes. Why destroy our traps?" I asked. "I was just curious. The design is clever. It almost hurt me," the man replied. A woman screamed, "Leader!" I rushed back to Yang Xiao, who was now foaming at the mouth. "Green water snake venom," the bull-eared man said, approaching. "It's late, but I can try." "Let him go," I commanded. The man grabbed my jade dagger, sliced Yang Xiao's chest, and let the black blood drain. I stopped my tribe from interfering. "Let him work. Bring me my leather bag," the man ordered. Mao Yi retrieved the bag and handed it to me, and I gave it to the stranger. Inside were pungent herbs and various colored stones. "Crush this stone, get water, and boil this bitter branch," the man instructed. I complied immediately. The green ox beastkin sliced his hand with a dagger and dripped his blood into Yang Xiao's mouth as the tribe watched in shock. Half a day later, the green ox awoke, stretched, and inspected the bamboo tent, nodding in approval of my craftsmanship. As he emerged, I approached and bowed, expressing my gratitude. I was stunned. Yang Xiao's condition would have been fatal even with modern medicine, yet this stranger had pulled her back from the brink. The green water snake's venom acts slowly. He was just lucky, the green ox replied dismissively. Before I could voice my many questions, the green ox interrupted. "I'm hungry. I smell meat. Give this old man some." I had Sister Yu bring a bamboo tube of mushroom meat soup, which the green ox sipped while sitting cross-legged on the ground. "Not bad. You even used salt," I didn't expect a tribe in these deep mountains to know such things, he remarked. Xiong Chumo waddled over, his belly round, and asked who the stranger was as darkness began to fall. The green ox stared at Xiong Chumo in surprise, asking, "A beastkin, and you're hanging out with these beastier people?" Xiong Chumo's eyes widened, whispering to me that the man was smart. I scolded him to sit still, chiding him for only wanting to eat and sleep instead of learning. The green ox chuckled at Xiong Chumo's simple nature and asked, "You must be wondering who I am?" He explained that they were likely from the wilderness north of Zushan, adding, "This world is vast, and there is much you do not know." I learned that numerous Stone Age tribal civilizations existed to my south, scattered along the Yu River basin. The green ox identified himself as a sage of the earth, a traveler who spreads language and survival skills. Most tribal priests north of Zushan had encountered his kind. The sage then turned his curiosity toward my leather vest. I nodded. "This is tanned cow." Realizing the man's heritage, I stopped, but the sage laughed. "It's fine. Primal beasts are different. We have chosen our own path." Impressed by the sage's open-mindedness, I asked if he was crossing Zushan. "Yes, to travel and collect medicinal herbs." Respectful of the man's benevolence, I offered my help. The sage declined, noting he traveled alone and rarely faced trouble, leaving me feeling embarrassed about my own tribe's primitive state. I asked for his name. "I am Su," the man replied. I wondered if the world's writing system was pictographic, as was typical in history. Su drew a mountain-like symbol with 2 dots in the dirt, explaining it was a self-created character for his name. I smiled at the crude writing. When asked about the Yu River tribes, Su refused to divulge their locations, insisting I discover them myself. I urged him to continue. Su stroked his beard, warning, "This area is the edge of the pig-ear race's territory. They have explosive tempers." I thanked him and offered my jade dagger as a gift, but Su refused, saying, "I am a beastkin." I was surprised, wondering why he would reject a superior weapon. Su explained, "Beastkin who rely on tools lose the protection of their totems, and their ancestral abilities fade." I realized the sage's limitations. While the sage valued beastification over tools, he didn't grasp the potential of advanced technology. Su glanced at Xiong Chumo, who remained oblivious, caring only about his next meal. "Since you can build nests, you are enlightened," Su said solemnly. "I will teach you a survival skill." I asked for help with medicine to prevent another incident like Yang Zhao's. Su was impressed by my priorities and potential. "For green water snake venom, cut the wound immediately and use a specific stone and heartleaf herb," he instructed. Su handed me a brittle, lime-like stone and promised to draw the herb later. Su agreed to the trade, requesting food in exchange for his guidance before he departed for Zushan. That night, after I finished my time with Sister Yu, I was startled by a sound from Xiaobao. I stepped out to find Xiaobao, who often wandered alone since leaving Zushan, sitting by the tent. Smelling blood, I checked her arm and asked anxiously where she had been and if she had used styptic herbs. Xiaobao looked away, acting aloof, so I went to the fire to prepare the herbs myself. Su approached, mentioning he had eaten some grass after finishing the tribe's soup. I asked if there were many like him. Su sighed, saying his green ox kin were scattered and few remained in the ancestral lands. I considered trying to recruit the intelligent green ox tribe to strengthen my own. Deciding to be cautious, I simply invited Su to stay and offered him food. Su declined, then identified the herbs in the pot as thistle, asking who was injured. I noted the name was similar to Earth's, though the herb's efficacy was impressive. I explained Xiaobao's injury, and Su handed me a pungent, earth-like substance. "This is yellow mud. It heals wounds quickly," Su said. I asked if it was for anti-inflammation, a term that confused the sage. I claimed I learned the term from a deceased elder to avoid revealing my origins. Su lamented that the knowledge of yellow mud was a secret inheritance of the green ox. I thanked him and took the medicine to Xiaobao. Xiaobao flinched when I grabbed her hand, her amber eyes wide. I patted her head. "I'm just giving you medicine. Don't be nervous." I noticed her hand was soft, much like Mao Yu's, a characteristic of the snow leopard race. As I applied the yellow mud powder, I soothed her. "It'll be over soon." Once finished, Xiaobao whispered south. "Pigs. They are bad." Realizing she had been attacked by the pig-ear race, I warned her to avoid hunting there. She agreed and vanished, her heart racing, a sensation she hadn't felt even while hunting. The next morning, Sue left without a word. I, unfazed, focused on my goal, building a kiln to improve pottery production, as the current pit-firing method was inefficient. I began by constructing a mud kiln near the river to produce charcoal, which requires an oxygen-deprived environment to create. Charcoal burns hotter, improving pottery quality. I also planned to calcine limestone into quicklime to repel the region's abundant snakes and insects. While I worked, Mao Yi arrived. Leader, people have arrived from the south. Who? Pigs. How many? Mao Yi hesitated, struggling with the count. Not many, fewer than us. Chen Feng suspected they were tracking Xiao Baozi. He mobilized his men, prepared to kill them if they proved hostile. The men armed themselves with stone spears and sharpened bamboo spears, the latter proving highly effective in combat. Xiong Chumo was brought in for his brute strength. Xiao Baozi insisted on joining, claiming, "It's my fault. I'm going." Knowing her pride, I agreed but warned her. "If we fight, you must stay hidden." Xiao Baozi blinked. "Okay." Rustling sounds echoed through the jungle as a group of beastier people sprinted through, avoiding local predators. The dense jungle was filled with ancient banyans, teak trees, and various unfamiliar species. Xiao Baozi noted that crossing this forest took 2 to 3 days, leading to the open plains where they had encountered the pig-ear race. Mao Yi scouted ahead and signaled from a tree. "Leader." The group slowed down, creeping forward until they spotted 9 figures in a clearing behind 2 giant trees. The strangers were feasting on raw rabbit meat, oblivious to the impending danger. I recalled Sue's advice to avoid unnecessary conflicts, but I remained cautious. I whistled, and my men surrounded the 9 pig-ear people. The strangers held bone clubs, except for one stout man wielding a stone hammer. I stepped forward. "This is our territory. Why are you here?" The leader, a hairy man covered in mud and resin, stepped forward. Surprisingly, they wore loincloths made of linen. "Your territory? Never heard of you," the man retorted. I replied coldly, "You have now." The man signaled a subordinate, who beastified into a massive black wild boar. I ordered my men to raise their shields. The boar man smirked, realizing my group couldn't beastify. "Beast ear trash from Zushan, you're courting death," he sneered. The boar charged, relying on its thick, resin-coated hide for protection. I commanded, "Throw." 16 spears flew. Most of the enemy beastified, though one was injured before he could transform. As the black boar neared, it roared. Xiong Chumo let out a thunderous bear roar, startling the beast. As it stumbled, I and Lu Ming dodged, allowing the massive brown bear to slam his paws into the boar's skull. As the boar hit the ground, I and Lu Ming stabbed our bamboo spears into its flanks, drawing pained shrieks. "Leader, watch out." I rolled to avoid another charging boar. Xiong Chumo, slower to react, was rammed and engaged in a brutal brawl. Spread out. The men fought in trios. Shield bearers absorbed the impact, while the others struck the dazed boars with stone axes. After minutes of intense fighting, the first boar collapsed. A snow leopard suddenly dropped from the trees, snapping its neck. My men, though their shields were shattered, remained agile and uninjured, using their numbers to overwhelm the beasts. I, Lu Ming, and Bao Jie faced the largest boar. My spear broke, so I used a jade dagger, dodging and weaving to find an opening. Bao Jie and Lu Ming worried for me, but my wolf race agility kept me safe. Panting, I lured the boar to the edge of the clearing, feigning a slip to bait a charge. As the boar lunged, a figure leaped over me, grabbed me, and tossed me to safety. I rolled, hearing a loud bang. The boar slammed into a tree and collapsed. Lu Ming and Bao Jie rushed to finish it off. Xiao Baozi pulled me up. "Good teamwork," I praised. That leap was beautiful. They had exchanged a look. She had understood my plan, pouncing to save me at the last second. Xiao Baozi turned away, but I noticed her arm was bleeding again. "It's over, stay still." Xiong Chumo and his team had torn 2 other boars apart with terrifying, bloody efficiency. Even his allies kept their distance, fearing the bear's uncontrollable rage. 2 boars tried to flee, but Mao Yi captured them alive. I hung the boars' heads on trees as a warning to other tribes. Half my men were injured but stable. I ordered Mao Yi to scrub their tracks to prevent further tracking. Where did this come from? I held up a piece of linen. When the captives refused to talk, I had Lu Ming interrogate them. The ape tribe. It's the ape tribe, they confessed. They are far away, 5 or 6 days' journey toward the sunrise. Lu Ming, they're yours. Make them work, feed them twice a day, I ordered. The pig-ear people had nothing but linen, which I had washed and dried. 2 days passed without further sightings. The pig-ear race had clearly been intimidated into staying away. I began crafting a bamboo bow, drying boiled bamboo strips, while Xiao Maiyue watched me quietly. I noticed the little girl had become increasingly withdrawn, preferring my company over playing with other children. Go fetch the ox tendon. Xiao Maiyue obeyed. I spent the morning smoothing a bamboo strip, then wrapped my center with pig-ear race hemp cloth. I drilled holes at both ends for the tendon string, reinforcing it with a mixture of boiled hemp fibers and ox tendon. Using my knee as a fulcrum, I slowly bent the bamboo into a bow shape to set my tension. At sunset, Bao Jie's hunting team returned with a modest haul, 1 wild boar, a few chickens, and bird eggs. I tested my bow on the boar carcass. It pierced the hide at 30 meters, proving lethal enough for human targets. I was surprised by the efficacy of my crude construction compared to the weak bows of my childhood. The success was due to the high-quality ox tendon and the bamboo's natural resilience. The hunters tried the bow, but only Mao Yi showed talent, hitting targets accurately within 20 meters after a few tries. I gifted the first bow to Mao Yi for his role in spotting enemies, earning a rare smile from the stoic man. By midsummer, a bamboo settlement stood north of Zhu River. Women gathered berries, drying some for storage as I taught. Others were crushed into jars to serve as a glaze for roasted meat. Chen Yu and the children played a game involving tossing and catching small bones, a pastime I had introduced. Chen Yu won the children's polished bones but returned half, teaching them that losing carried a cost. After the children left, Xiao Maiyue asked quietly, "When is the leader returning?" Chen Yu worried. I had been gone 3 days searching for salt. I, Xiong Chumo, and Lu Ming were currently fleeing a swarm of horse-sized wasps. I cursed Xiong Chumo for his gluttony. After finding a salt deposit, Xiong Chumo had raided a beehive, provoking the swarm. Xiong Chumo kept licking honey off his fingers, unbothered, claiming, "Mo, it won't kill us. Your beastification makes you tough, but what about me and Lu Ming?" Lu Ming sensed water nearby, and the trio sprinted toward the humid air. They burst through the stone forest and dove into a green pool to escape the wasps. Splash! They submerged until the wasps finally retreated. I surfaced, gasping, followed by Xiong Chumo. I realized Lu Ming was missing. They dove back in and saw a dark shape, a giant python constricting Lu Ming. I swam toward them with my jade dagger. The python, confident in its grip, ignored me. I slashed the snake, and a beastified Xiong Chumo grabbed its head, attempting to tear it apart. The snake released its grip. I grabbed the unconscious Lu Ming and swam to the surface. I performed chest compressions on the shore, keeping a steady rhythm. Xiong Chumo surfaced, roaring in triumph, but wilted instantly under my icy glare. Lu Ming coughed, and I whispered his name in relief. Lu Ming remained unresponsive, but a voice called out from behind a rock, "Hey!" I spun around to see 3 deer-ear girls in white feathered crowns, accompanied by a herd of deer. Xiong Chumo. Xiong Chumo dropped the snake and rushed to my side, alert for danger. The lead girl offered help. I demanded, "Is this your territory?" She nodded, eyeing the dead python with fear, and approached cautiously. She was beautiful, with pale skin, red lips, and white teeth, wearing deer hide and grass sandals. She realized the unconscious boy was of her own race. "Priest, save him," she stated. I bowed in gratitude, trusting her to treat Lu Ming. I and Xiong Chumo stepped back. Xiong Chumo apologized, finally realizing his gluttony had nearly cost a life. The priestess applied a black, viscous substance from a bamboo tube to Lu Ming's chest while the other 2 danced. She added her own blood and dried petals to the tube, while the dancers spat into it. She fed the mixture to Lu Ming. The girls prayed until sunset, when Lu Ming finally coughed and woke. I reassured him, "You're safe. The snake is dead." Lu Ming faded back into unconsciousness. The priestess smiled. You killed the python. You helped us. They learned the pool was the deer race's only water source, often plagued by the python. The priestess invited them to their camp for the night. The deer race was a matriarchal tribe of over 100 who lived alongside and rode deer. They lived west of the stone forest in semi-caves reinforced with bamboo and branches. The arrival of me and Xiong Chumo with the massive python carcass drew curious, fearful stares from the tribe. The 7-meter-long snake was large enough to swallow a person whole. The high-status priestess dismissed the crowd. With the onlookers gone, I and Xiong Chumo began skinning the snake, a valuable resource. The deer race recoiled from the scent of blood, leaving only the priestess, who stared in fascination at my jade dagger. I considered starting a fire, but realized the deer tribe lacked fire and likely avoided it to protect the forest. I refrained, not wanting to offend them. After butchering the snake, I hesitated before offering the snake meat for you. The priestess accepted happily. The tribe wasn't as rigid as I thought. They ate meat to sustain members who couldn't undergo beastification. Under the stars, a weary Xiong Chumo slept. I stayed awake, chatting with the priestess on a boulder. Have you met Su? The priestess nodded. Yes, he visited recently. She gazed at me, noting, you cannot Beastify. True, she asked. Then why does that bear obey you? I tapped my head. I use this. The priestess praised my life-saving, artificial respiration technique. When I offered to teach her, she declined, fearing it was a sacred tribal secret, though she clearly wanted to learn. Touched by her integrity, I insisted, my tribe is gone. I'll teach you. She agreed to a fair exchange, offering a gift in return. Their eyes met, and I felt a genuine spark of attraction, a feeling I hadn't experienced with Chunyu. Lie down, I instructed. She complied, eyes full of anticipation. I placed my hand on her chest. Right here. Yes. Press here. Yes. I felt distracted by the softness but regained my composure, explaining the rhythm needed for the technique. What rhythm? She asked. I patiently sang, the most dazzling folk style, to demonstrate the 118 BPM beat. Watching from their caves, the deer tribe assumed the rhythmic singing and physical contact were part of a mysterious ritual. By morning, the tribe bid them a fond farewell, offering more salt in the future and escorting them past the stone forest. Back in the bamboo sea, I prioritized boiling salt with Chunyu, as it was a vital, rationed resource. I implemented a communal system, building a guarded warehouse for supplies. I returned to my 20-square-meter bamboo house, worrying about winter insulation. Outside, the panda-eared boy and Xiao Maiyue were counting bamboo sticks, a habit I encouraged to teach them numbers. Xiao Maiyue excitedly presented a gray-white stone her brother, Mao Yi, had given her, knowing I was experimenting with limestone. I inspected it. It had a metallic luster and wasn't limestone. I suspected it was tin ore. I patted her head, a gift. She nodded. I felt gratified. I decided to focus on building a drum the next day. I chose the tough python skin for the drumhead, saving cowhide for more critical needs. Before entering my room, Song, a skilled wolf-ear warrior, approached with an item. It was a bamboo bow. I tested it, impressed. You made this? Song nodded. I critiqued the string attachment, promising to teach him a better method. Song's lips curled into a rare smile. He felt immense pride in the leader's recognition. I spent the night teaching Song how to craft arrows, emphasizing the importance of fletching for stability. Song noticed Chunyu's dissatisfied red eyes at the doorway, and, fearing her growing influence, quickly retreated. Leader, I'm leaving. Song fled with his bow. Chunyu smiled in satisfaction. I sighed. She was obsessed with why they couldn't have children like other cross-species couples. I kept the truth to myself. I was intentionally preventing it, deeming the environment too dangerous for offspring. I finished my snakeskin drum, satisfied with my craftsmanship. At noon, I was interrupted by shouts. I and Xiao Maiyue rushed to the fire pit, where silver-white liquid lay. Once cooled, I picked up the solidified, oddly shaped metal and bent it easily. The tribe was disappointed, but I was ecstatic. It was clearly tin. Good stuff. Chen Feng laughed, holding the tin. I sent Xiao Maiyue to find Mao Yi to locate the source of the ore. When Mao Yi didn't return, I grew concerned and led a search party with Xiao Baozi and Xiong Chumo. Usually, Mao Yi would respond to calls. His silence suggested danger. In the forest, they met a lynx ear scout. "Where is Mao Yi?" I asked. "He's tracking the ape-ear people." Ape-ear people? I was stunned, wondering if they resembled humans, but pushed the thought aside. "How long ago?" "Half a day." "Stay here, we'll find him." Xiao Baozi tracked the scent, leaving markers for the group. In a clearing, Mao Yi confronted two ape-ear people wearing fur packs and hemp skirts, noted for their upturned noses. Intimidated by Mao Yi's bow after being grazed by an arrow, they panted, "Why are you chasing us?" Mao Yi replied, "You invaded our territory." The ape-ear pair exchanged looks. "You're a beast ear?" Mao Yi stayed silent. One ape-ear smiled. "We are ape-ear. Trade, understand?" "Trade." The ape-ear stepped forward, pointing at the bow. "What is this?" Mao Yi remained silent, adhering to tribal secrecy. Seeing this, the ape-ear visitor scratched his cheek, pulled out a brown linen cloth, and offered. "Trade food." Understanding the offer, Mao Yi hesitated. The leader liked such skins, but he couldn't trade his bow. He decided to offer the wild chickens from his jungle cabin. A snow leopard sprinted over, reverting to human form beside Mao Yi. Mao Yi explained, "They want to trade. The leader is behind me." Xiao Baozi added briefly before falling silent. I arrived. Seeing the ape-ear people, I felt a strange kinship. Their ears resembled humans, save for their long tails. Learning their intent, I smiled. "You're here to trade? I happen to need your linen." Surprised by my fluent speech, the ape-ear man held up the cloth. "One sheep." I shook my head. Linen wasn't essential yet. "One chicken." The two ape-ear men conferred. A piece of linen was worth only one chicken, so the trade was actually profitable for them. They agreed immediately. I ordered the chickens brought, eager to secure the linen for my tribe's use. I asked if they had anything else. The visitor opened his animal skin pack, revealing small, high-quality clay pots. I picked up a pot sealed with grass rope and fur. "What's inside?" The man rubbed his hands. "Glue." I wanted to open it, but the man refused, insisting it shouldn't be opened by those who didn't understand it. I smiled. "How to trade?" "Horns." The man gestured, needing ox or deer horns. I had plenty of ox horns intended for trumpets. Agreed. After trading for the glue, I exchanged 6 chickens for all their linen. Before leaving, they tipped me off. In 7 days, a large intertribal trade fair would be held in a canyon to the east. I was grateful. Relying solely on my own tribe was too slow for development. After they left, I sternly told Mao Yi, "Report first next time." Mao Yi apologized, admitting he had underestimated the visitors as mere traveling merchants. I beat a snakeskin drum. Though not ideal for war, the rhythm delighted the tribe, who began dancing and shaking their heads. Xiao Baozi peeked out, but Xiong Chumo remained sound asleep, oblivious to the noise. I used the drum to boost morale. Chen Yu took charge of it, viewing it as a precious treasure crafted by me. I asked Mao Yi about the tin ore. It was located in a gully between 2 small hills, about half a day's journey south. That area belonged to the pig-ear race. I learned from captives that there were 3 related pig-ear tribes in the south. The tribe I fought was small. The captives lamented, "Our chief is dead. Our people have surely joined the other 2 tribes." With their main strength gone, the survivors had fled, and the other tribes showed no interest in revenge. I decided to secure the tin. I hoped to craft beautiful vessels to trade at the autumn fair. I planned to lead a group south tomorrow to collect the ore. Chen Yu and the women returned with bamboo fish traps, which proved as effective as bark nets. Praising my wisdom, Chen Yu clung to my arm, though the arrival of new guests made her uneasy. The deer-ear priestess had arrived with 6 followers, bringing salt ore. Inspired by my teachings, she sought further discourse. She hoped I would teach them how to refine salt. In exchange, she brought 2 tamed plum deer, promising they would breed. I accepted the deer, but declined to teach the refining process. "I will help you process it myself," I promised. The gentle priestess nodded, seemingly content without learning the tribe's survival secrets. The deer-ear guests were fascinated by the bamboo walls and houses, observing them with great curiosity. I hosted a feast, lighting a bonfire and playing the snakeskin drum to keep spirits high. The priestess played a bone flute, surprising me with her musicality, which made my own drumming seem clumsy. The tribe danced wildly to the music, men linking shoulders and roaring in unison. It was a raw, primitive celebration, perfect for encouraging the tribe to grow. Late that night, the priestess sat with me and Chunyu, telling stories of her mother and a sage of the earth who had gifted her the flute. Did your mother love him? I asked. The priestess looked confused. Love? Chunyu hugged my arm, boasting. Love is two people staying together to have children. The priestess laughed. Is that not love? Family is between kin. Love is between partners. Your mother and the sage likely had friendship, I explained. The priestess looked at me with admiration. Friendship. Did you think of that, Mo? I suppose so, I admitted. I realized that tribal development required more than just material goods. It needed a moral and intellectual foundation. I resolved to establish rules and ethics for my tribe. The priestess looked at Chunyu. Can neither of you Beastify? Chunyu snorted. What's so good about that? I changed the subject. How does your tribe keep your teeth so healthy? Healthy? White, no rot. The priestess smiled shyly. We chew a certain root. Could you bring some to trade next time? I asked, noting my tribe's poor dental hygiene. Yes. They discussed the autumn fair, which was led by the sage of the earth and the three major tribes. The fair served as a venue for population exchange to avoid inbreeding, though most tribes preferred their own kind to avoid producing non-beastifying slaves. I took notes, agreeing to travel with her. The next morning, Bao Jie returned with successful trap catches. The priestess woke up in a bamboo house, refreshed by the scent of bamboo and the comfort of the sheepskin-covered bed, enjoying the best hospitality the tribe had to offer. Watching from the window, she saw me teaching a group of children to count from 1 to 10. The kids were eagerly competing to show off. She wondered what purpose my efforts served. As women walked by with bamboo fish traps, she felt embarrassed to keep asking for bamboo crafts. She decided to return home early to collect herbs for trade instead. I ended the lesson early, tasking Xiao Maoyue with supervising the children while I went to oversee the first batch of pottery firing in the clay kiln. After lighting the charcoal, I and my men placed the dried clay vessels into the kiln, sealed the top, and left only a small opening for stoking the fire. The deer-ear priestess approached with her group. I noticed a girl looking shyly at the ground. She had spent the night in Lu Ming's bamboo hut, clearly interested in him. I and the priestess secretly encouraged such unions, as even a one-night stand could lead to offspring, benefiting both tribes. Are you leaving? I had given them refined salt yesterday, along with instructions on using wood ash and bamboo filters to remove impurities. I lacked the reagents to remove harmful metal ions for pure refined salt. Yes, I cannot stay away too long, the priestess replied. I offered to escort them. No need. You are busy, and we know the way, she declined. Very well. Qingyo Su, escort them part of the way. Understood, leader. When Qingyo Su failed to return after half a day, I sensed trouble and set out with Xiao Baozi and Bao Jie to find them. After running for a while, a pale Xiao Baozi emerged, whispering, the scent of a tiger. My expression darkened. Tigers, whether bestier or primal beasts, were feared by all. Nearby, Qingyo Su was desperately fleeing through the bamboo sea with the deer-ear group, pursued by the sound of tiger roars. Qingyo Su's bow had snapped from overdrawing, but he kept the string clutched in his hand. Head to the mountaintop. The other side leads home, Qingyo Su shouted. The priestess, exhausted, realized the tiger was fixated on them despite their attempts to split up. Seeing her struggle, a companion urged, Priestess, Beastify and run. When the priestess hesitated to leave Qingyo Su, he insisted, Beastify. I have a way to escape. They transformed and scrambled up the mountain. Qingyo Su waited until a 3-meter-long white tiger leaped from the brush, eyeing him coldly. Qingyo Su raised his spear, feinting a throw. The tiger, recalling previous injuries from their spears, instinctively dodged. Instead of throwing, Qingyo Su bolted in a different direction. The tiger roared, realizing it had been tricked. The tiger's speed was superior. As it lunged, Qingyo Su dove and rolled, narrowly avoiding its jaws. The tiger, confident in its predatory perfection, prepared to strike again. Knowing he was doomed, Qingyo Su stopped running, turned, and braced his spear against the ground, point upward. The tiger, displaying feline agility, stopped abruptly just before the spear. As Qingmyo Su scrambled to rise, the tiger swiped, snapping his spear and forcing him to retreat. Roar! A sharp leopard cry rang out. The tiger recoiled, looking down at a small snow leopard with disdain. The tiger roared, shaking the mountainside. Before the sound faded, whoosh whoosh, several spears flew, forcing the tiger to retreat. I and my group appeared. I was shocked by the tiger's massive size. Qingmyo Su was helped up. Where are the deer-ear people? They escaped. I and my men shouted and brandished our spears, keeping the tiger at bay. The tiger, wary of injury, chose not to risk a fight. It grabbed its previous kill, a deer, and vanished into the forest. Relieved, I said, let's go find the deer-ear tribe. The deer-ear tribe had lost 2 deer and 1 person was slightly injured. After ensuring their safety, I escorted them to the edge of their territory. Xiongchimo was excited upon hearing about the tiger. Chinemo, let's hunt it together. I agreed, but insisted on prioritizing my trip to the south to retrieve tin or first. I planned to devise a strategy while the tiger kept its distance. Warning my tribe to avoid the deep bamboo sea, I set off south with 5 others the next day. Crossing the South Forest, they reached the vast wilderness beyond. The primeval forest was shrinking, giving way to plains where only those who adapted could survive. Early hominids had once abandoned tree dwelling to walk upright, adapting to the changing world. The group traversed the wilderness, hunting 2 deer for rations. Resting under an ancient tree, they boiled bird eggs found by Xiao Baozi. I asked, Mian, was your ancestral territory in the north? Xiao Baozi shook her head, silent and troubled. She remained closed off, and I struggled to get her to open up. She expertly peeled a boiled egg. The screech of giant birds echoed above. They had noticed their eggs were stolen. The group hoped the birds would descend so they could test their spears, but the birds dared not attack. Reaching the rocky ravine, I had my men collect tin ore while I and Xiao Baozi kept watch. While carving a bone flute, I recalled my grandfather's techniques with newfound clarity. Xiao Baozi suddenly sat up. Blood. My wolf bloodline picked up the scent as well. I decided to investigate with her, leaving the others behind to keep our profile small. They descended the mountain, Xiao Baozi transforming and scouting ahead. Moving through a thicket of fruit-bearing shrubs, I followed her scent and soon spotted Mian. I and Xiao Baozi peered through the bushes at an open clearing, witnessing a scene that unsettled even the battle-hardened me. A group of pig-ear people had erected a wooden platform where a pig-ear priest, adorned in a bone mask and a beast-ear leg bone, danced rhythmically, his fat quivering. The platform was carpeted in blood and gore, littered with severed heads, mostly rabbit-ear people, and visceral remains. Below, pig-ear tribesmen circled the platform, rhythmically swinging their shoulders while holding primal beast heads. Witnessing this primitive ritual for the first time, I realized that had I remained north of Zushan, I and my kin would likely be sacrifices. Let's go, I whispered. Xiao Baozi, seemingly accustomed to such sights, showed no interest. As they turned to leave, a roar erupted from the east as a pack of tusked wild boars charged in. The ritual participants erupted in fury, many undergoing beastification to clash with the boars, felling several instantly. The non-beastified pig-ear slaves hurled stones as a new group emerged from the east, wolf-ear warriors wielding clubs. Their small, brown ears identified them as the wild mountain wolf tribe. I, belonging to the wild gray wolf lineage, knew my own beastification form would be larger than theirs. As the wolf-ear warriors transformed into brown mountain wolves and joined the fray, the tide of battle shifted. The pig-ear priest ordered his remaining men to charge while he beastified and bolted toward the bushes where I was hiding. Coward, fleeing the battle. I grumbled, dragging Mian away as the priest crashed through the brush behind them with surprising speed. As they burst from the thicket, the priest collided with a boulder, reverted to his human form, and collapsed, clutching his head in pain. I and Xiao Baozi exchanged a look and pounced. I pinned the priest's stomach with my foot. Don't kill me, the priest shrieked. Xiao Baozi stepped on his face, snapping, shut up. Hearing movement in the bushes, I grabbed the priest's large ear and hissed, move, or die. They crossed a small hill, I ordering Bao Jie and the others to keep moving without explaining the identity of their new captive. Back at the bamboo sea, the tribe's children teased the new captive, while the other two pig-ear prisoners looked on in shock, wondering why their priest had been captured. Thud! The priest was shoved to the ground, offering a sycophantic smile. I know who you are. I sat on a bamboo stool. Oh, how? The Shanju tribe leader you killed. His people fled to me. The priest chuckled nervously. Then why didn't you come for us? I asked. The priest feigned anger. They are my enemies. I narrowed my eyes. The priest was clever and insincere. I remained vigilant despite the man's fawning. Do you want to live? I asked. The priest nodded frantically. What can you offer my tribe? I have something good, the priest said, eager to prove his worth. I found a way to get food. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, how? The priest pulled a small grain from his loincloth. Bury this in the soil, and in autumn, it grows into something delicious. I realized it was a grain, though smaller than rice, more like millet, yet distinct. You discovered this? I asked coldly. The priest blinked, claiming his tribe found it in a dried-up swamp during a famine. I have met the sage of the earth, I sneered. The priest paled, realizing he had been too comfortable speaking with me, assuming I was just another beast-ear tribesman. The sage told me to plant it, the priest admitted bitterly. We planted many this year, but before autumn, your territory has swamps. The south has plenty of water, the priest replied, desperate to survive. I suspected it was an ancestor of rice. Selective breeding could revolutionize their tribe's survival beyond mere hunting. Adapt to our tribe for now, I commanded, leaving the anxious priest behind. The priest was put to work with the other captives, digging pits and building the final bamboo wall. The priest's former tribe didn't pursue him, having unified the southern territories under one banner. I began casting tin into clay molds, melting tin ore with charcoal to create silver-white tin bowls. Though unrefined and containing impurities, these bowls were a massive upgrade for the tribe. Simultaneously, they produced higher quality pottery using the new kiln and charcoal. Learning that every tribe had a name, I named mine the Chi tribe to foster unity. I avoided naming it after a specific race to remain inclusive of my multi-ethnic population. As summer heat intensified in the bamboo sea, the tribe endured the humidity while completing their tasks. Late in summer, a woman emerged from a bamboo hut, shouting excitedly. It laid an egg. The hut served as a coop for 20 wild chickens, which had grown accustomed to being fed by the beast-ear people. The gray, long-tailed variety grew quickly, and their first egg was a cause for celebration. The woman ran to the back of the leader's hut, finding Xiao Maoyue on a swing pushed by two children. I had built the swing for Xiao Maoyue and Chunyu using sturdy bamboo beams and bark ropes. It was designed for the children. The structure couldn't support a giant like Xiongchimo. Where is the leader? She asked. A child pointed west. The leader is with the deer-ear people. Though disappointed, the woman shared the news, and the tribe began to see the value in animal husbandry. So simple-minded, I mused in the stone forest, referring to the deer-ear priestess before me. The girl wore a jade pendant on a hemp cord, her hair neatly trimmed. Can't jade be used to cut hair? She asked. I smiled. Jade was just a sharp tool to them, though they mostly used it for decoration. Where do you find so much jade? I asked. The priestess smiled but remained silent, clearly hiding something. Sitting on a giant rock, they watched the deer-ear people transport wood and bamboo, as the priestess sought to emulate the Chi tribe's architecture. I didn't offer help. The deer-ear priestess was intelligent enough to build a basic hut, and the deer-ear race remained distant from my tribe. Without an alliance, I wouldn't force a connection. The priestess asked about the giant tiger. I sighed, admitting I'd found no tracks. The beast was likely just passing through. Still, the threat forced my hunters to remain vigilant. The girl dropped the subject as I unveiled my tin bowls. Her eyes lit up with desire. She marveled at the craftsmanship, realizing their usual clay pottery was vastly inferior. What do you want in exchange? I asked. I need a large quantity of deer hides. The priestess wasn't offended. Her people were enlightened by the sage of the earth and understood that beast-ear people and primal beasts were distinct. In extreme survival situations, even their own kind might resort to cannibalism. Do you know our ancestral grounds hold many hides? she asked calmly. I coughed, recalling the pig-ear priest's intel. Tribes often stored items representative of their kind, like wild boar tusks for the pig-ear race. Assuming the deer-ear race had hides and antlers, I added. If not, I'll take some chewing grass. The priestess smiled. I intended to trade those at the autumn gathering, but I can spare some now. That's perfect. We traded 7 tin bowls for 7 hides, 2 pairs of antlers, and a bag of dried chewing grass. I chewed the grass, noting it produced a foam similar to toothpaste when mixed with saliva. After I rinsed my mouth, the priestess warned, "Don't bring tin to the autumn gathering." I realized the danger. Will people try to steal it? She shook her head. Not at the gathering, but powerful tribes will track you down. Your tribe. She didn't finish, but I understood. My tribe's inability to undergo beastification made them targets. Prejudice was a mountain not easily moved. The warning sobered me. I couldn't underestimate the intelligence or cruelty of this era. I thanked her and invited her to the Chi tribe's upcoming bamboo wall completion ceremony. Back at the bamboo sea, I felt the pressure. The southern pig-ear race knew of me. Contact was inevitable. A wall wouldn't stop other tribes, so I planned to dig a trench filled with bamboo spikes outside. With the spring rice harvest due, I considered venturing south to retrieve it. It was risky. If the pig-ear priest discovered my identity, trouble would follow. My hesitation was interrupted by Xiong Chumo, who returned weeping. My woman was killed by that tiger. I felt for him. I had previously urged the woman to move to the Chi tribe, but she had refused. Seeing my followers' grief, I asked, "Is the tiger injured?" "Yes, I smell blood." Xiong Chumo's eyes burned with vengeance. As a bare-blooded man, he viewed the tiger as a natural rival. I decided to hunt the beast before autumn to avenge my brother and secure the hunting grounds. I armed 10 men, leaving the recovering Lu Ming and Mao Yi to guard the tribe, and set off with Xiong Chumo and Mian Mian. We headed to Pine Forest Mountain, a peak taller than the bamboo sea, recently seized by the giant tiger from a barriered woman. Xiong Chumo led the way, carrying a massive stone axe he'd polished himself, a weapon capable of felling fierce beasts even without beastification. Mian Mian, usually a scout, was kept close by me, much to her annoyance. The others, including Bao Jia, moved with nervous, hushed steps, fearing the tiger. They reached the cave where Xiong Chumo's woman had lived. He stared sadly at the pottery gifts he had brought her. I comforted him, then ordered the group to rest before searching for the tiger at dawn. Mian Mian removed her deer-hide boots, and I caught a faint scent of sweat. She glared at me, but I laughed. It's still summer. Why insist on wearing them? I'd learned that the little leopard was vain and obsessed with cleanliness. She ignored me, staring at the cave's jars. She'd recently taken to washing her feet, making her the first to embrace wearing shoes. I'll check on Xiong Chumo. I'm going for water. At the mountain stream, I spotted a squirrel. It watched me with curious, bright eyes. I smiled, and the squirrel vanished. "What are you looking at?" Xiong Chumo asked. I shook my head, then noticed dried pine resin on a tree. "Wait," I said, scraping off a piece of resin. I held it up, and Xiong Chumo instinctively opened his mouth. I pulled back, nearly hitting him. "Damn it, don't eat that." Xiong Chumo grinned sheepishly, thinking it looked like honey. I kicked him. "Let's go." At the stream, we filled our bamboo containers as night fell. The forest grew eerie with insect cries. Used to the wild, we weren't afraid. I sifted through the stream's sand, recalling how one might extract iron sand to forge a blade. "What are you thinking about?" "Let's go," Xiong Chumo urged. I looked at the sunset. Dusk always brings back memories. Xiong Chumo didn't understand, but I envied his simplicity. It must be nice to live without a care. Xiong Chumo patted his chest. "Mother said, as long as you're full, you're fine." She was right, I agreed. As we stepped away, the forest went silent. Roar! The tiger lunged. Xiong Chumo beastified, taking the bite on his shoulder, his claws raking the tiger's face as he fell. I rolled away, grabbed my spear, and leaped, driving it into the tiger's back. Snap! The spear broke, leaving the head embedded. The tiger whipped its tail, striking me, and I gritted my teeth and drew my dagger. The tiger retreated into the brush, its low growl echoing in the dark. I and Xiong Chumo stood back to back. Xiong Chumo's night vision was failing, so he could only growl to intimidate their attackers. Both man and bear had suffered minor injuries in their first clash with the giant tiger. The tiger lingered, waiting for Xiongchumo to exhaust his beastification and revert to a beastier person, knowing he wasn't a true primal beast. I realized this too, but I stayed calm, hoping the tribe would hear the roars and send reinforcements. My heart sank when a second tiger roared nearby. It was a pair. No wonder they had killed Xiongchumo's woman. As the second tiger approached, Xiongchumo urged me to run. I refused to abandon my brother. A scarred tiger charged from across the creek, revealing it was the one previously injured. I threw a stone, but the tiger ignored it and lunged. Simultaneously, the first tiger burst from the brush to attack Xiongchumo. I and Xiongchumo dodged in perfect sync, causing both tigers to miss their initial pounce. The agile tigers quickly reset and launched a coordinated attack on me. Xiongchumo threw himself at one tiger, and the two rolled into a vicious, biting brawl. I was pinned by the second tiger. As its jaws neared my neck, I jammed my dagger into its eye. The tiger howled in agony. It swiped, leaving a deep gash on my chest. I fought through the pain, trying to break free. The tiger's claws raked my thigh as it retreated. I, pale and desperate, sat up and stabbed again. The tiger stepped back, avoiding the strike. My head was left exposed. The tiger lunged again, ready to crush my skull. Suddenly, a black blur, Mian, leaped onto the tiger's face, clawing wildly. The tiger swiped Mian away, sending the small leopard flying with a pained cry. Mian, I roared, my eyes bloodshot. Mian stood, shaky but defiant, letting out a war cry. The tiger responded with a deafening roar. Overcoming her primal fear, Mian charged again. I forced myself up, dagger in hand, to join her. The tiger focused entirely on the leopard, waiting for her to expose her vulnerable belly. As the tiger leaped to bite Mian's abdomen, it exposed its own belly to me. I poured all my remaining strength into a desperate leap, driving my dagger deep into the tiger's stomach. Mian screamed as the tiger landed on them. My blade tore a massive wound, drenching me in blood. Man, leopard, and tiger collapsed together. Pinned under the tiger's carcass, I saw Mian bleeding out and felt a paralyzing fear of death. Mian began to revert from her beast form, her eyes meeting mine as she whispered, "Water." I realized she was apologizing for the errand that led them here. "You fool." Leader, Bao Jie and the others arrived, frantically spearing the dying tiger. Bao Jie pulled the carcass off me, looking desperate. "Save her. Don't let her die," I gasped before losing consciousness. I awoke to a sensation on my face. A small squirrel was staring at me, the same one I'd met earlier. I was in a cave with a fire burning. It was dawn, and my tribesmen were sleeping nearby. The squirrel sniffed my chest and looked disgusted, making me chuckle. I coughed, drawing the attention of my tribesmen. Bao Jie knelt, ashamed that they had arrived too late to prevent the near-fatal injuries. I grabbed his arm. "Mian." Bao Jie gestured to a small body nearby. I tried to move, ignoring my pain. "Don't move, leader. Your wounds will reopen," Bao Jie warned. I stared at the leopard, weeping. "Why did you jump in? I promised you more food." The squirrel licked the tears from my face. Bao Jie whispered, "Leader, Mian is alive." I froze. "Alive?" Bao Jie smiled, pointing at the squirrel. It was this little one. I looked at the proud, hands-on-hips squirrel, which backed away in disgust at my snot. What did it do? Bao Jie brought over a white, root-like plant. "Ginseng?" I asked. Bao Jie asked if I recognized it. "It's a potent herb, but not enough on its own," I noted. Bao Jie explained the squirrel had chewed herbs and applied them to their wounds. I stared in awe. The squirrel waved a paw dismissively. I laughed and knelt to bow in gratitude. The squirrel hopped onto my shoulder, comforting me with its tail. Xiongchumo, wearing a tiger skin and head, walked in. The sight terrified the local wildlife. I envied Xiongchumo's recovery. I and Mian were still bedridden, though my bones were intact. I reminded Xiongchumo to watch his own wounds, despite his thick hide. "I know," Xiongchumo grinned. Back at the bamboo wall, the tribe cheered. Qing Yosu had returned earlier to organize the rescue and stretchers. Little Rabbit, eyes red from crying, cleared the crowd and had me moved to my room. She held my hands to her heart. I reassured her I was alive. She licked my wounds, and I warned her they had underestimated the tigers. Bao Jie brought a tiger skin as a trophy for the leader, which the tribe now fully supported. They respected me for fighting a tiger as a mere beastier person. Little Rabbit rolled on the skin, but I offered it as a mattress. She refused, disliking the lingering scent of the predator. A small figure stood at the door holding a squirrel. I beckoned, and Mao Yu approached cautiously, her eyes welling up at the sight of the bloodstains on my chest. I pinched her cheek, reassuring her. "Don't cry, I'm fine. How did this little guy end up with you?" Mao Yu replied softly, "It likes me." The squirrel had followed them back, but had previously refused to approach anyone. It seemed to have taken a sudden liking to her. Chen Yu tried to hold it, but the squirrel bared its teeth in protest. Chen Yu sighed. "It's still quite fierce." Mao Yu touched my chest gently, asking if it hurt. I patted her head. "It doesn't hurt anymore." This brush with death gave me a sense of urgency. I needed copper or for metal weapons, as my tribe's current combat strength against beasts was insufficient. Feeling guilty for failing to protect their leader, Bao Jie and the others set out to hunt the next day to help me recover. During my recovery, I spent 15 days teaching my tribe complex language, basic writing, and survival skills like navigation. I sent Mao Yi and the pig-ear priest to the south, where they successfully returned with a bag of unhusked rice, harvested in a rush. I carefully stored the larger grains, planning to cultivate them near the Zhu River next spring. Mao Yi also brought back sour, date-like shrub fruits from the south, which I named shrub sour dates. Xiong Chumo returned wearing wolf skins, reporting that the trees north of the Ancestral Mountain were turning yellow, signaling the coming autumn. Still recovering, I opened my eyes on my bamboo chair. The deer-ear priestess should be arriving soon. When the deer-ear tribe arrived, they marveled at the Chi tribe's bamboo walls, seeing them as an effective defense against beasts. They were also puzzled by the women drying fish, wondering why they didn't just eat them immediately. I had ordered the tribe to salt fish for winter, prioritizing survival over taste. Xiao Bao confirmed my suspicion that winter would bring heavy snow, similar to the climate of the Sichuan-Chongqing Basin. At dinner, I sat with the deer-ear maiden, Chen Yu, and Xiao Bao, serving sour dates and fried eggs. Though the eggs were cooked in a clay pot and looked messy, the deer-ear maiden enjoyed the novel cooking method. She preferred these dishes over raw meat, eating with great delight. Hearing of the tiger hunt, she looked at the round-faced, seemingly harmless Xiao Bao with newfound respect for her bravery. Discussing the exchange fare, the maiden noted it was a 7-day journey, though they could make it in 5 with their deer mounts. The Chi tribe only had 2 rideable deer and 1 young, non-rideable mountain deer. "We can keep up," I said confidently, having put my men through 10 days of endurance training and tactical drills. The priestess smiled. "We will slow down to travel with you." She valued the Chi tribe's combat strength, as her own people were vulnerable to predators like the jackal race. The deer-ear tribe brought 20 adult deer carrying deer skins and antlers. I had my tribe pack bamboo baskets with salt, animal bones, tiger teeth, and tools. I also prepared a special item, hoping for a big haul. I left Xiong Chumo to guard the tribe and kept the injured Xiao Bao behind. With 7 tribesmen, Lu Ming, and 14 deer-ear members, the group of 20+ was formidable enough to deter most threats. Camping at the foot of a small mountain range, Lu Ming taught the deer-ear tribe how to set up tents efficiently. 3 tribesmen returned from a hunt, demonstrating the effectiveness of their spears by killing a black sheep. The deer-ear priestess and I bonded over music, with her quickly learning the rhythms I tapped out. Their relationship grew closer. She responded to my playful pokes with shy smiles. A deer-ear man whispered to Lu Ming, "The priestess won't mate with your leader." Lu Ming scoffed at their arrogance regarding the priestess. "Mate?" Lu Ming repeated with disdain. The man didn't understand, but Lu Ming found his vocabulary crude compared to the Chi tribe's concept of love. Watching Lu Ming expertly skin the sheep with a stone knife, the man felt a chill, realizing the Chi tribe's terrifying mastery of tools. Unaware of the tension, I asked the maiden, "I still don't know your name." The priestess tensed, looking nervous. She looked at me with watery eyes. "We cannot." "Cannot what?" I asked, confused. She laughed. "Our tribe's rule is that we only share our names with our mates." "I see." I replied, unbothered. I viewed my relationship with Chunyu as a mutual survival pact and remained disciplined regarding romance. While I found her attractive, I had more important goals than pursuing her. Seeing my lack of disappointment, the maiden felt a strange, hollow sense of loss. "I'm tired," she said. "Go rest," I replied. I felt unusually energetic after consuming tiger blood and soup. As others slept, I patrolled the perimeter, sprinkling lime to ward off snakes. They still hadn't found the heartleaf herb. Lu Ming asked, "Leader, do you want that woman?" I smiled. "Why would you think that?" Lu Ming replied, "Everyone sees it. If you like her, we could just take these dear-ear people tonight." I was surprised by Lu Ming's ruthless, pragmatic streak. It was a common mindset in this era. Violence solved everything. I tapped Lu Ming's head. "She's a rare friend." Lu Ming nodded and went to sleep, leaving me on watch. The night was filled with eerie, primal sounds as I patrolled with my spear. In the middle of the night, I spotted several pairs of glowing green eyes in the brush. I stood my ground, watching the beasts, which seemed hesitant to attack. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream echoed from the mountainside, followed by wolf howls. As the sounds drew closer, I blew my whistle. Alert! At my shout, the 7 Chi tribe members reflexively emerged from their tents, their bodies conditioned to respond instantly to such alerts. They gathered around me, gripped bamboo shields while 2 readied bamboo bows, scanning the surroundings with vigilance. "Leader, what is it?" Lu Ming asked, gripping his spear. I stared ahead. "Something is rushing toward us." The deer-ear clansmen emerged, confused. Priestess Duo and her group followed, watching my team's formation with surprise. "What's wrong?" the girl asked. I replied grimly, "It's here." A boar-sized figure burst from the darkness. I recognized the large horn. It was a young rhino. Several shadows pursued it. As Lu Ming and the others raised their weapons, I roared, "Don't hurt it!" The young rhino, vision poor, charged blindly, pursued by a pack of wolves I had never seen before. At 20 meters, I commanded, "Target the wolves." "Throw." Spears flew. My bamboo spear struck a black wolf's forehead, sending it rolling in agony. Not fatal, but enough to incapacitate it. As more wolves were struck, the pack realized they faced a formidable foe and fled into the darkness. "Finish them off." Lu Ming's group moved to dispatch the injured wolves, while the panicked young rhino charged straight to me. I grabbed its horn, and to my shock, the creature ended its beastification, transforming into a boy sitting on the ground. The boy, sporting rhino ears, looked up in terror. "Don't eat me." I smiled. "Rhino ear tribe." The boy nodded, relieved to see me wearing linen rather than animal hides. He grabbed my hand. "Save my mother." "Where is she?" "In the mountains. She was bitten." I looked at the dark forest and shook my head. "It's too late." The boy hung his head and sobbed, understanding his mother was gone. They collected the soft, high-quality black wolf pelts. Priestess Duo explained, "These are Wushan black wolves." "Wushan." Seeing my ignorance, she explained, "These are the Wushan Mountains. To the north lies the ancestral home of many tribes." I nodded, watching the boy drink water. "How did you and your mother end up in Wushan alone?" The boy sobbed. "We got separated. 2 great tribes are fighting in the south." "Fighting?" "We're near the trading grounds. That violates the Sage of the Earth's rules," the girl said, puzzled. The boy shook his head, equally confused. I frowned, feeling a premonition that made me want to retreat and develop my tribe in safety. However, Priestess Duo remained determined, needing fresh blood for her tribe. After weighing the risks, I decided to investigate, ready to flee if things turned sour. The next day, they crossed the Wushan Mountains. I learned the boy's tribe had been caught in the crossfire of 2 southern factions and scattered. I gleaned more world-building details. At least 9 major tribes lived north of the Great River, led by the Green Ox race, with the Ape-Ear race being the most populous. The Rhino-Ear tribe had split after the boy's birth, with a faction moving to the south bank, weakening them significantly. They had been traveling to the trade fair when they encountered a war between the Wild Wolf-Ear and Green Fox-Ear tribes. At dawn, I emerged from my tent. Priestess Duo noted that after crossing this forest, they would reach the open plains and, half a day later, Green Bull Valley. As they exited the forest, the group tensed. Hundreds of people were gathered by a river in the clearing. for distinct tribes were resting, maintaining distance from one another. Lu Ming's group approached the river, where the nearest tribe was the rabbit ear. I noted their long, drooping ears. They were the most numerous, numbering over 40. They are giant ear rabbits, massive in their beastified form, Priestess Duo explained. I asked how big. As tall as you, she replied. I was stunned. A kick from such a creature could easily break bones. A giant ear rabbit woman approached, her physique perfectly embodying the giant name. Priestess Duo greeted her with the forehead-touching ritual, the woman eyeing me throughout. The woman approached me, looking arrogant. Trade? Priestess Duo whispered. She wants your baskets. I smiled. What are you offering? The woman, seemingly disliking the wolfkin, replied coldly. 2 non-beastified wolfkin for all of them. I refused to give all of them away. 4, I countered. She shook her head. I added, plus a black wolf pelt. She still refused. I wasn't desperate. I wasn't here just to trade baskets. The woman lingered, eyeing my meticulously crafted leather vest. Priestess Duo whispered that the Chi tribe's leather was not for trade, even to the deer ear. The woman left, disappointed. A group of rat ear tribesmen approached, not for me, but for Priestess Duo. Deer skin trade, the priestess agreed. What for? The rat ear chieftain, a hunched, foul-smelling man with red patterns on his chest, gestured for his men to throw a pile of colorful tail feathers on the ground. The priestess shook her head. She wanted people or livestock, not feathers. The chieftain bared his teeth. Deer, if you don't trade, we take. They were outside Green Bull Valley, so the chieftain felt emboldened to bully the smaller tribe. As the priestess hesitated, I stepped forward. No trade. The chieftain glared at me, noting my wolf ears and the diverse group behind me. Slave ear people, he sneered. The priestess tried to intervene, but I stopped her. I scanned the other tribes. Some fights were inevitable, and I was ready to strike. Slave was the slur beastkin used for those who failed to achieve beastification. Most beastkin would have erupted in rage at the insult, but I remained calm. This unnerved the rat-ear chieftain, who let out a shrill squeak, signaling his tribe to brandish their bone clubs and unleash a cacophony of ear-piercing shrieks. The deer-ear priestess recoiled in fear, clutching my arm. I sneered. As the chieftain lowered his head, preparing to strike, a spear flew through the air before he could even initiate his beastification. Thwack! The chieftain clutched his gut in disbelief at my ruthless efficiency. His tribesmen charged, many beastifying into giant rats over a meter tall, closing the distance in a blur. I pulled the deer-ear girl back as Lu Ming and his team stepped forward, using bamboo shields to deflect the lunging rats while simultaneously skewering them with spears. The surrounding tribes watched in shock as the slave-ear group held their own against the vicious, bone-crushing rat-ear warriors. As 30 giant rats swarmed, the deer-ear tribe's people beastified to join the fray. I roared, "Crouch!" Lu Ming's team dropped, allowing a group of deer to leap over them and collide with the rats. I barked, "3!" The team shifted into tactical formations, back-to-back pairs wielding axes, shields, daggers, and bows. They moved with fluid precision. Shield bearers blocked attacks, spearmen finished off the downed rats, and archers picked off those trying to flank them. The 2 three-man Chi tribe units functioned like spinning blades, shredding any rat that dared approach. With the deer-ear tribe drawing the rats' attention, I and Lu Ming exploited every opening, delivering lethal strikes whenever the rats overextended. The rats soon realized they had bitten off more than they could chew. They were terrified by the Chi tribe's bows, which fired projectiles too fast to dodge at close range. As the remaining dozen rats fled, I relentlessly hunted them down, my thrown spears piercing them one by one. The battlefield was soon littered with corpses. My group suffered only minor injuries, as did 7 of the deer-ear tribe's people. After cleaning my spear, I checked on the deer-ear girl, who had spent the battle shielding the rhino-ear boy. "Why fight?" she asked, shaken by the sudden, brutal violence. I looked toward the other watching tribes, my expression cold. "To kill the chicken to scare the monkeys," I replied, noting I also needed to earn the deer-ear tribe's absolute trust. I envisioned the deer-ear tribe as a natural cavalry, and I knew that fighting side by side was the fastest way to forge a bond. Knowing my diverse group would be targeted, I used these arrogant bullies to establish dominance and ensure a safer journey. I locked eyes with the girl. Did they bully you often? The priestess nodded shamefully, admitting they were accustomed to being robbed before reaching Green Bull Valley. Follow me, and that ends today, I said, patting her head. The girl felt a strange, softening sensation at my touch. The 6 non-beastified rat-ear tribesmen, who had hidden during the fight, dropped their clubs. Seeing no escape, they knelt and begged for mercy, indifferent to their new masters. I spared them, ordering Lu Ming to bind them. They would serve as useful labor. The other tribes, intimidated by my ferocity, kept their distance. The giant-ear rabbit woman approached the priestess, her gaze toward me now filled with newfound caution. The rat-ear tribe carried only worthless scraps and rotting pelts, which I deemed not even worth the effort of looting. The priestess, still trembling, crouched beside me and whispered, "Was I a coward?" I washed my hands and smiled. "It's not your fault. Your caution was logical for the tribe's sake, but with me here, things are different." The deer-ear girl felt a surge of admiration. The tribe, long bullied by the rat-ear, felt empowered by my decisive victory and no longer looked down on my group. "Rest up, we're moving out," I commanded. The deer-ear tribe nodded instinctively, now viewing me as their leader. The group set off after a quick meal. As they neared Green Bull Valley, the presence of powerful tribes deterred any troublemakers, as everyone feared the Green Ox race. By evening, with half a day's travel left to the valley, I ordered the group to set up camp. While the tribe worked, I noticed a group of strangers with large, round ears lingering nearby. The deer-ear priestess smiled, noting my curiosity. "Don't worry, they're the giant ground sloth tribe. They're gentle, just very slow." Sloths? I wondered if they were related to the prehistoric giant ground sloth. As the tents were finished, the group arrived, moving with the sluggish gait of elderly men. I observed their tiny ears and bizarre black and white face paint, especially the comical black nose markings. Suddenly, the rhino-ear boy dashed forward to block the 2-meter-tall leader. The leader squinted slowly, finally smiling. "Rhino, leader Dada, it's me," the boy cheered. The leader looked confused. "Dada, have you seen my tribesmen?" the boy asked urgently. The leader shook his head. Disappointed, the boy stepped aside. The leader glanced at my camp, his eyes lingering on the massive ancient trees behind them. The sloth tribesmen moved through the camp and began climbing the trees to spend the night. My people remained calm, knowing they were harmless. The leader greeted the deer-ear priestess, clearly an old acquaintance. Once the leader was in the trees, the deer-ear girl warned, "Don't let their appearance fool you. They are fierce in battle." "Really? If they move this slowly, isn't their beastification even slower?" I asked. She shook her head. "They are massive, with long claws and thick hides. They aren't slow when they fight." I realized they were likely the legendary giant ground sloths, 4 to 6 meters tall, armored with internal bone plates, and powerful enough to crush saber-toothed tigers. I decided it was best not to provoke such behemoths. Both my group and the deer-ear tribe boiled mutton to recover from the day's skirmish. The aroma of mutton and wild berries filled the air. I sat with the priestess while the rhino-ear boy hungrily downed a bowl of soup. I gave the boy an extra rib. The boy beamed, feeling inspired by my combat prowess earlier that day. "If I find my people, I'll give you something good," the boy promised. I offered a reassuring nod. A massive shadow fell over them as Dada, the sloth leader, approached. His eyes crinkled into crescents. "Trade for some meat?" he asked softly. I offered a jar of soup. Dada sat down with a heavy thud, his 2-meter frame dwarfing everyone else. Dada gulped down the soup in one go, then reached into the jar to grab the meat. I noted that while the sloths moved slowly, they ate with surprising speed, a necessity for their massive size. Wiping his mouth, Dada pulled a long cloth bag from his waist, revealing bits of tree bark and 2 rare items I recognized. Jade ginseng. Though the 2 roots were shriveled from dehydration, I recognized them instantly. I hadn't expected the sloth tribe to possess such treasures, which had previously saved my life. The slow-moving sloth leader observed me carefully. "You know ginseng?" I nodded. "Yes, I've eaten it." The leader leaned in uncomfortably close. I forced a bitter smile, feeling awkward at the proximity. "It has the scent of ginseng," Dada confirmed slowly. He held out the root with his long-nailed hand. For you. Surprised that the leader would trade such a precious item for nothing, I asked, what do you want in return? Dada didn't explain, simply walking toward the ancient giant tree. The deer-ear priestess was equally baffled, noting that the sloth tribe rarely traded their belongings. Without answers, they let it go. By the next morning, the sloth tribe had already departed, their slow pace necessitating an early start. My group merged into the massive, noisy migration of beast-ear tribes and their tamed primal beasts entering Green Bull Valley. The rhino-ear boy, anxious amidst the overwhelming herd, stayed close to me for safety. I observed various unfamiliar tribes, identifying them by the beasts they brought. The fox-ear tribe stood out. They were exceptionally beautiful, wearing form-fitting linen and clearly valuing their appearance. High on the valley walls, the green ox race stood guard with jade staves, maintaining order over the crowd. Entering the 200-meter-wide valley, I realized that positioning was determined by power. Stronger tribes claimed the front. Smaller groups like theirs were relegated to the edges, often resorting to disputes or duels to secure a spot. The green ox race ignored the constant brawling, seemingly allowing it as an unspoken rule. The deer-ear priestess led them to a quiet, neglected spot near the exit where no one would challenge them. They set up their goods, exchanging friendly greetings with neighboring deer-ear groups. The rhino-ear boy remained despondent, unable to find his kin. I feared the worst, as only a major power could have wiped out such a strong tribe. A mournful, resonant horn blast silenced the valley, drawing everyone's attention to the center. Cheers erupted as 5 massive figures emerged from the depths of the valley. Leading them was a green ox the size of an Asian elephant, flanked by a white horse and a giant elephant. The final 2 were serrated tigers, sleek, leopard-spotted predators over 2 meters long with terrifying white fangs. Most shocking was a 3-tailed white fox, which captivated me completely. As the beasts reached the exit, the crowd erupted in cheers, and my companions joined in the fervor. The beasts transformed into 5 distinct beast-ear individuals. The leader was an elderly green ox-ear man with a sage-like appearance. A muscular, cold-eyed tiger-ear youth stood nearby, radiating a murderous aura. I was particularly intrigued by the 3-tailed fox woman, who remained clothed even after reverting from her beast form. The green ox elder raised his hand, signaling the start of the exchange. The crowd stirred. A group of ape-ear people, known for their immense wealth, approached the deer-ear groups. Seeking deer hides for the coming winter, the ape-ear traders offered various goods for selection. A dark-skinned, flat-nosed ape-ear woman approached me, her smile bright and friendly. She inspected my bamboo containers and pottery, discovering the fine, snow-like salt inside, which she tasted with surprise. Salt. Mistaking them for slaves, she ignored the others until I asked, "Want to trade?" She looked up, stunned. "These are yours?" I didn't think slave-ear groups could manage this. The ape-ear tribe were shrewd merchants who preferred trade over conflict. I declined her offer of linen for the salt. "I want beast-ear people," I countered. She scoffed, offering 5 slaves for all my goods. She clearly coveted my finely crafted bamboo containers. I refused, prompting her to walk away, warning that my goods weren't essential enough to fetch a high price. With winter approaching, people prioritized labor and livestock over containers and salt. I waited patiently as she departed. The deer-ear priestess returned, having successfully traded her hides and antlers for more people and livestock. Suddenly, a familiar face from Qingyo-su approached. It was Su, accompanied by an arrogant ox-ear girl. He looked at my goods. "Your craftsmanship has improved." I bowed respectfully, though the girl beside Su remained aloof. "Honored to see you again, wise one," I said. Su chuckled at the new term. I offered him a gift as thanks for his past help. I produced a silver-white object, a cast tin ox sculpture. Its seamless, metallic finish drew a crowd, as it was unlike any stone or jade carving they had seen. Su touched the material. "Is this stone?" "It's tin, ore," I explained, having spent great effort casting it. The girl snatched it, marveling at the lack of carving marks. "You didn't carve this?" "No," I replied. Su insisted on trading for it, but I refused to accept payment for a gift. Before they could finish, a squirrel ear man named Chi approached Su, bowing deeply. Su's expression turned solemn. Chi, I'm sorry, I couldn't find your holy beast. Chi, a man with squirrel ears, said bitterly, I've troubled you, wise one. Losing the holy beast is my fault. I will return to the Ancestral Mountain to search. As they discussed the beast, I noticed the man's squirrel ears and recalled the little squirrel back at my tribe. Could it be the same one? I held back my questions, deciding to probe Qingyo later to avoid unnecessary complications. Su turned to me and offered a small hide bag, saying gently, This is yellow mud. I saw your tribesmen are injured. Take it. I accepted, knowing I needed it. My men had fought the giant rat tribe, and I feared the bite wounds might become infected. The 3 squirrel ear men approached, making me nervous, but they only asked, Can you carve squirrels? I nodded. Not this time, but next time. The man agreed to trade then. After they left, Su whispered, The squirrel ear race excels in medicine. Do not offend them. I nodded. Once Su departed, many others approached, eager to trade for my tin carvings. A group of wolf ear people were captivated by a half-meter-wide tin wolf carving, amazed by its lifelike detail compared to standard stone carvings. I insisted on trading only for people. I settled for 3 scrawny wolf ear slaves, though I doubted their labor value. After the wolf ear group left, I displayed my remaining tin carvings, a tiger, a leopard, and a fox. The crowd hesitated. These carvings represented powerful tribes that most people dared not provoke. I knew the risk, but I desperately needed to expand my tribe's population through trade. I hoped those unfamiliar with tin would mistake them for exquisite stone carvings. Unbeknownst to me, my display had already attracted unwanted attention. Before I could pack them away, a dark-skinned man with black leopard ears approached. The tall, thin man loomed over me, radiating cold pressure. Give them to me. I hesitated. What will you trade? The leopard ear man sneered. A slave? And you dare ask for a trade? You carve our likeness. Are you seeking death? The deer ear girl tugged my vest, warning me not to provoke the man. I stood my ground, stating coldly, This is the rule of trade. The man laughed mockingly. A slave who cannot undergo beastification talks to us about rules? The crowd jeered. When Lu Ming and the others stepped forward, the leopard ear man challenged, Do you want a duel? The crowd egged them on, certain that a slave like me wouldn't dare accept. Even if you win a duel, you only earn the right to trade, not to rob. A crisp voice interrupted. A 3-tailed fox ear woman approached. The leopard ear man paled and retreated, intimidated by the woman's icy presence. She stood before me, her hair smooth and adorned with a simple jade piece. Unlike the typical disheveled beast ear people, she looked refined, her gaze indifferent and aloof. Su said you had good things, so I came to trade, she said. I realized Su was helping me again. I respectfully offered the tin fox. She glanced at it and said, Not bad. Lee, give him a bag of heartleaf herb. I was grateful. This was exactly what I had been searching for. When she looked puzzled by my thanks, I smiled. My gratitude is like a river, endless. The woman's eyes brightened. Su was right. You are interesting. She left, leaving behind a faint fragrance. The crowd, realizing I had ties to Su, stopped their mockery. The leopard ear man stood awkwardly. A tiger ear man arrived, grabbed the tin tiger, tossed a red jade stone, and left without a word. I frowned at the arrogance but swallowed my anger, knowing I couldn't afford to offend the tiger race. The leopard ear man seized the chance to slip away. 3 leopard ear women arrived next. The leader's face confirmed she was related to Mian Mian. She leaned in close, sniffing me, and asked, Have you seen my Mian Mian? I felt like I was meeting my mother-in-law. She is my friend, I stammered. Friends. We are hunting partners, I corrected. The woman scoffed. Mian Mian doesn't need your help hunting. I didn't argue. She is very strong. She saved my life. I handed her the tin leopard. She huffed. I don't need your flattery. She signaled a girl to hand me a rock sheep. She left before I could ask more questions. I shook my head, amused by the family resemblance. With my carvings gone, I decided to trade my bamboo baskets. I set off with Lu Ming and the deer ear priestess. They wandered through the area occupied by weaker tribes, mostly small herbivores and rodents. I finally stopped before a group of pangolin people, who had colorful stones laid out. I spotted coal and diamonds. I didn't care for the diamonds, but the coal was vital, and the pangolin clan would make excellent miners. The pangolins were shy, their ears barely visible. The leader stood, smiling and flicking her long tongue, which startled me. She tilted her head and whispered, "What do you want to trade?" I showed her the sturdy bamboo baskets. "These containers are strong. I want those stones." Her eyes lit up. The baskets were perfect for transporting debris in their caves. "Deal," she accepted immediately. I took the coal and 2 stones that looked like copper ore. I noticed a pile of scales on her mat and asked, "May I see those?" The woman replied shyly, "Those are our scales." I realized the pangolin scales were medicinal, known for promoting lactation and treating nodules, a valuable find for my tribe. "Can we trade?" The pangolin woman was stunned that anyone wanted the scales, but she eagerly agreed. I offered 3 bamboo cages in exchange for her entire stock, explaining they could be used for poultry farming or fishing. The woman was confused by the complex explanation, so I stopped, letting her figure out the utility herself. Testing the scales, I noted their hardness. They would make excellent armor plating. After filling a basket with scales, I gifted the woman a small pouch of fine salt. The woman, surrounded by curious tribespeople, took the pouch hesitantly until I gestured for her to open it. Upon tasting the salt, her eyes lit up, though she dismissed it as something easily found elsewhere. "It's a gift," I clarified. Accepting the freebie, she readily agreed when I asked for the location of the copper and coal deposits. She pointed toward the depths of their cave. I proposed a long-term trade. They mine the ores, and I pay in primal beast meat. The woman was thrilled. While they scavenged insects, their humanoid forms required high-protein meat. High-energy brain activity forced even herbivorous beast-eater people to adopt omnivorous diets. I gave directions to my territory, 7 days west of Zushan, near the bamboo groves. Unable to recall the location, the woman promised to find me at Zushan. I initiated a handshake, a gesture the woman found novel and delightful. Moving deeper, I encountered various predator-blooded tribes like the wolf, hyena, and bear races. Most were only interested in trading slaves, which didn't interest me. I then spotted a group of horse-ear people, my ideal recruits. I envisioned them as the foundation of a future cavalry force. With their high intelligence, they could be trained into elite riders quickly. Knowing their current low status, I kept my ambitions hidden to avoid conflict. The proud horse-ear people ignored me with disdain. I moved on, passing a group of ox-ear people moving massive timber. I noted a trunk of golden phoebe, wondering who would trade for such heavy material. Realizing I lacked trade goods, I decided to treat this trip as reconnaissance for future visits. Deciding to wrap up, I planned to trade with smaller tribes for furs before leaving. Returning to my group, I found the rhino-ear boy trembling, claiming his kin were dead. I comforted him, promising safety within Green Bull Valley. The boy whispered that he smelled the scent of his slaughtered kin on the jackal race. I frowned. The cunning jackals were notorious for sabotaging larger tribes like the pig-ear race. I suspected the jackals had used dirty tactics to overcome the physically superior rhino-ear tribe. "What will you do?" The boy begged for help, so I offered to harbor him until he could be safely returned. The boy wept, displaying a timid nature uncharacteristic of his powerful race. I noticed the jackal race watching them with hostile intent. Realizing they were being targeted, I worried about the danger to my tribe. I decided to seek help from Sue, the leader of the Green Bull tribe. At the valley's heart, they witnessed a duel between a serrated tiger and the Green Bull tribe. I fought my primal fear of the apex predator, forcing myself to remain calm. Word spread through the crowd that the Green Bull tribe had lost. The serrated tiger proved itself the true king of the region. As the crowd dispersed, I saw the Green Bull tribe settlement, featuring advanced shelters and a cave marked by giant bull horns. Guards blocked the entrance, sternly ordering me to leave. "I need to see Sue," I insisted. The guard raised his bone staff, repeating the warning. As I turned to leave, a voice stopped me. It was Sue's daughter, who approached with a curious grin. "You want to see my father?" she asked. She offered to help if I promised to craft her a tin sculpture. I agreed immediately. She entered the cave, leaving the guard to stand down. A weary Sue emerged and asked why I had returned. Upon hearing about the rhino-ear tribe's fate, Sue's expression darkened. Su took the boy under his protection, promising to escort him home. The boy thanked me for saving his life. Sensing impending chaos in the river basin, I decided to evacuate my tribe immediately. As the sun set, my group hurried west, joined by other tribes sensing the growing danger. Crossing a rocky plain, I suddenly stopped, causing the deer-eared girl to bump into me. "What's wrong?" "Shoo." The group crouched down. My ears twitched as I caught the faint sound of howling. "Wolves. Be careful. Leader, should we bypass them?" Lu Ming whispered. I hesitated. Detouring was risky. Suddenly, the wolf-eared girl they had traded for pointed ahead. "Look!" I stood up. In the darkness, a group of shadows, giant ear rabbits, was sprinting toward them. "Don't move. Stay low." My wolf bloodline granted me night vision. I confirmed it was a group of giant ear rabbits fleeing at high speed. Behind them, the howling intensified. The jackals were hunting them, and some younger rabbits had already reverted from their beast form, struggling to keep pace on foot. "Take the captives behind the boulder," I ordered. As they retreated, the rabbits neared, and a familiar voice cried, "Help!" The deer-ear priestess gasped, "It's Toomey." I frowned. The rabbits were too fast to outrun, and I refused to abandon their supplies. I scanned the pursuers. There were about 30 jackals against a dozen exhausted rabbits. I turned to the deer-ear priestess. "Do you want to save them?" She looked at me, emboldened. "Can we?" I nodded. Saving them was a chance to test a tactic I'd been planning. "Do you trust me?" She nodded without hesitation. "Then transform. If you let me ride you, we can charge them." "Ride?" The girl froze. I was stern. "Yes, if you think it hurts your pride." The girl bit her lip. "There's no time. We have to fight." She knew they were likely targeted by the jackals too. "Let's go." The jackals were ecstatic, sensing the rabbits were spent and could be easily slaughtered even without beastification. As the rabbits collapsed in exhaustion, the jackals charged, only to suddenly catch the scent of other tribes. A deer silhouette leaped over the rabbits, carrying a spear wielding me. The jackals, seeing only a large deer and a wolf-ear warrior, charged recklessly. But then, 6 more figures and a herd of deer emerged. At 30 meters, I shouted, "Throw!" Spears rained down in the dark. The jackals shrieked, their confusion turning into murderous rage. I and the deer-ear priestess charged at full speed. As the first jackal lunged, I struck. "Kill!" My spear pierced the jackal's abdomen, lifting it as I plowed forward. The priestess rammed 2 more with her antlers, forcing the rest back. I swapped spears, cutting down any jackal that dared approach. They tore through the pack and vanished into the dark. The remaining Chi tribe members followed, finishing off the wounded. The jackals were outnumbered and outcoordinated. As this strange combination of me and the deer circled back, the jackals were forced to turn and face them again. The jackals tried to bite the priestess to unseat me, but I kept them at bay with my spear and a dagger. The second charge shattered the pack. Hearing the wails of their kin, the jackal leader signaled a retreat. I raised my bloodied spear, shouting in victory, joined by my tribe. I slipped off the priestess, landing awkwardly on her back. The girl was drenched in sweat and exhausted. Carrying a rider while transformed was not a natural feat for her kind. Can you get off?" she asked, blushing with humiliation. I chuckled and stepped down. "Sorry, I got carried away." The charge had been devastatingly effective. The giant ear rabbit woman approached, panting. I gave her a respectful nod. I helped the priestess up. "Are you okay?" "What now?" The rabbit woman looked at me with newfound awe, her previous arrogance gone. "We move immediately," I decided. "This area is a death trap." The women agreed. Seeing the priestess's fatigue, I grabbed her wrist. "I rode you. Now it's only fair I carry you." I hoisted her onto my back. The girl blushed, heart pounding. I shouted, "Lu Ming, count the heads." "We move." "Understood." They traveled until reaching the Ancestral Mountain, finding a hidden spot to rest. I forbade fires. They ate dried meat and berries while the priestess fell into a deep sleep. The giant ear rabbits decided to travel west with me for a while to avoid further jackal encounters. The rabbit leader crouched beside me. "Why aren't you resting?" "We recover quickly," she smiled, licking her lips. She was clearly seducing me. I, though tempted, needed my energy. "Behave yourself," she persisted, whispering. "We lost everything. This winter will be hard." There are roots underground. I shrugged, indifferent. Help me. The children. She pleaded, her voice sultry. I sighed. Do you know how to fish in winter? How? She asked. Want to learn? Yes. I smirked. Fine, but you must meet my terms. She agreed to anything. Simple. Collect the medicinal herbs I draw for you this autumn, and bring them to us. She blinked, then huffed. Oh. The rest of the journey was uneventful. They encountered other tribes, but avoided conflict. A day later, the giant ear rabbits headed south, determined to return to their kin despite the danger. 4 days later, I returned to my tribe. Xiongchumo greeted me excitedly, showing off a wild boar he had hunted. I inventoried my spoils, storing and used items like pangolin scales and rewarding my loyal tribesmen with black wolf pelts for their hard-fought victories. Needing a mate for the domesticated rock sheep, I tasked Bao Jie with capturing wild ewes during the autumn hunt. The 6 rat-ear captives were treated differently than the 2 wolf-ear recruits, who were granted full tribal status and were currently integrating into the group. The rat-ear captives were forced into labor. Their future status depended on their behavior, with me ready to execute any who showed signs of rebellion. Having completed the bamboo wall, the 2 pig-ear tribesmen were now full members and could build their own bamboo house with assistance. I planned to utilize the captives to build bamboo watchtowers at the 4 corners of the wall to bolster the tribe's defenses. After a day of rest, the deer-ear priestess was recovered. I entered her bamboo hut, and the air grew thick with tension. Your people have recovered, I said, breaking the silence. The priestess felt conflicted. Having been ridden like a mount by this man in front of her people had compromised her dignified image. Sensing her distress, I sat beside her and reassured her. My people think you are powerful and brave. The deer-ear maiden smiled. Really? Of course, I replied gently. Relieved? She asked tentatively. Will you in the future? Only if there is danger. I coughed. So you would do it again? She blushed. I grinned. I am the leader. You are the priestess. We do what we must for the tribe. The priestess accepted my logic and decided to leave, having been away from her tribe for too long. I agreed to have Xiongchumo escort them. Suddenly, she looked up and asked, I want those shoes, pointing at Mianmian's feet. Those are deerskin boots. I laughed. I will sew a pair for you myself. At noon, as they prepared to depart, I whispered to her, if you face trouble you can't solve, come find me. She nodded and whispered, my name is Envy. I realized only after she left that Envy was a name she wouldn't have shared with just anyone. As I smiled, Mianmian appeared, hands on her hips. What are you smiling at? I replied nonchalantly. Did you forget to tell me something? Mianmian rolled her eyes. Right, I met your mother. Ah. Clearly intimidated, Mianmian leaned in and whispered. What did she say? She didn't say much, I shrugged. Mianmian warned me sternly, don't get close to her. Curious, I asked, is she that strong? Mianmian nodded repeatedly, though I remained skeptical, doubting a snow leopard could surpass Xiongchumo. That afternoon, I began smelting potential copper or fragments and washed crushed coal to remove impurities. After a long burn, liquid metal flowed from the kiln. I would have to wait for it to cool and experiment with tin ratios later. 3 days later, Chunyu returned with yellow, thick-skinned wild fruits the size of a child's head. I recognized the pungent citrus scent. It was likely a citron, an ancestor of the citrus family. I tasted a piece and shuddered at the sour, bitter flavor, though the rest of the tribe seemed to enjoy it. Regardless of its true classification, I dubbed it citron, and it became the tribe's regular dessert. Leader, it's cool. A young man named Ban called out. The mold contained a blade-shaped solid with a faint purple-red hue. I knew the black spots meant my temperature was too low, but the presence of copper was confirmed. I pumped my fist in excitement, and Ban followed suit, jumping for joy. Good work, Ban. Rest up. Tomorrow we make history. I patted his shoulder. Ban, who possessed musk ox bloodline, had developed a passion for the kiln, often experimenting with strange stones in the fire. Recognizing his talent, I exempted Ban from hunting, letting him focus on pottery and smelting. I pondered the smelting ratios for bronze, realizing I lacked specific knowledge and would have to rely on trial and error. Practice is the truth, I muttered, steeling myself for the work ahead. Chinyu arrived with Xiao Maoyue, who looked increasingly mature in her self-made hemp vest and bamboo crown. She hugged me, and I kissed her forehead, explaining I was just deep in thought. I leaned toward the squirrel perched on Xiao Mayue's head, which glared at me with annoyance. "Are you a holy beast?" I asked. The squirrel's tail stiffened, then it slumped and turned away, ignoring me. I stroked my chin, worried that if the squirrel ear tribe found the beast here, it would cause major trouble. Unable to resolve the issue, I decided to let it slide for now. Chinyu pulled my arm, while Xiao Maiwa tugged at my hemp shorts. "You want to go to Song Mountain?" "Yes, for pine resin and pine nuts," Chinyu requested. Pine nuts were excellent winter emergency rations, so I agreed, sending Bao Jie and Xiong Chumo to escort them. I had previously underestimated Xiong Chumo, who had once held his own against a tiger. I warned Xiong Chumo to stay vigilant and keep the tribe safe. Xiong Chumo promised, and I sweetened the deal by promising to help him find honey later. I also asked Bao Jie to bring back pine wood, hoping to craft a stronger bao to replace our weak bamboo ones. Mian Mian remained moody, worried about her mother. I realized she had run away from the snow leopard race, which had abandoned their solitary nature for group living. Many tribes were evolving, though large predators like tigers and bears remained largely solitary. That night, I prepared to comfort Mian Mian while planning my next smelting session with Ban. "Leader, this can make sparks," Ban said, holding up 2 dark gray stones. I was surprised to see flint. "Where did you find these?" Ban shook his head, Bao Jie and the others. I recalled telling them to collect strange stones. They had discovered the flint's properties while idly grinding tools. Ban discovered that striking 2 specific stones together easily produced sparks. He saved them to show me, having forgotten yesterday. Clack, clack, clack. I struck them repeatedly, sparks flying just as Ban described. "It must be flint," I exclaimed, delighted. "Flint," Ban repeated, memorizing the name. Flint contains phosphorus and manganese, making it spark easily. While the tribe already keeps fire, this will make travel much easier. "Who found this?" I asked. Ban recalled, "I think it was Hugong." I remembered the young fox race member who loved his bao so much he adopted the name Hugong. I decided to reward him, aiming to incentivize the tribe to explore and discover more useful resources. They proceeded to smelt tin or using charcoal. Once the solution cooled, they added the copper and tin pieces from yesterday back into the furnace. Recalling that copper and tin ores often contain lead impurities, I decided not to overthink it and simply awaited the results. Xiao Baozi poked my back, pointing toward the bamboo gate where 2 tribesmen were sprinting toward them. I frowned, fearing another crisis. The men gasped for air before one reported, "Leader, Jie and the others caught some wolves." "What wolves?" "The pack we saw at Mirror Lake." Surprised they had crossed the Ancestral Mountain, I asked, "Anyone hurt?" "No, there are over a dozen of them, including children." "Understood. I'll go see." I instructed Ban to watch the fire and headed to Song Mountain with Xiao Baozi, noting my own improved stamina. They arrived in half a day to find Qingyo Su and 3 others felling pine trees. "Leader," Qingyo Su greeted. "Where are they?" "Xiong Chumo is guarding them in the cave." Inside, Xiong Chumo lounged while a group of wolf-ear children sat quietly, comforted by their mothers. A short-haired wolf-ear youth looked despondent, worried about his elders back north. Chinyu led the women, guided by Little Squirrel, in gathering pine cones to extract pine nuts. Chinyu held a jar of pine resin, following her husband's instructions despite not knowing its purpose. Disliking the wolf-ear tribe for abandoning her husband, she threw pine cones at them and demonstrated how to crack them with a stone hammer. "Work," she commanded. The wolf-ear women hesitated, then complied under her authoritative gaze. A young girl stood up and shouted, "Don't do it." Chinyu glared at the girl, closing the distance until they were inches apart, eyes blazing. "Nan," the youth scolded. The girl retorted, "Brother, they are slaves. We should fight." "Do not use the word slave before me," a cold voice interrupted. "Life is equal. Say it again, and I'll cut out your tongue." I appeared, my expression indifferent. The wolf-ear man stood up, his gaze complex. I noticed my brother had also cut his hair short. Chinyu grabbed my arm. "Mo, let me teach them a lesson." I calmed her and turned to my brother. "Why are you in my territory?" The brother wasn't surprised, having recognized Xiong Chumo. Seeing the tribe's prosperity, he realized they were safe. Facing the Chi tribe's weapons, he knew resistance was futile and had surrendered immediately. "We were defeated," he said, face full of sorrow. Father and the others, surprised by their defeat against the cave bear, I asked, "How?" The brother explained they were winning until they reached the east of the Ancestral Mountain. A massive, aggressive herd of primal beasts, including mammoths, suddenly attacked them. The white mammoth fled north, scattering the tribes. The wolf-ear group was then hunted by the hyena-ear tribe. Their elders stayed behind to hold them off. When the elders eventually returned, they were changed. They were terrifying, permanently stuck in a feral, blood-eyed state. They slaughtered many of our own. I fled here with my sister. The brother trembled as he recounted the massacre. I asked Xiong Chumo and Xiao Baozi, "Have you ever seen anyone unable to revert from beastification?" They both shook their heads. I realized the North had changed. The wolf-ear people were losing their humanity to an uncontrollable, primal state. The brother interjected, "Brother, kill us adults, but spare the children." I didn't care for the sister, but I remembered the brother's attempt to help me at Mirror Lake. Seeing the brother's capability in leading survivors across the mountain, I decided he was worth cultivating. "This is my land. You want to stay?" I asked. The brother nodded. "We just need to survive the winter. My people are injured and cannot travel." They had been hunted by beasts throughout the journey. The cave was their only refuge. I chuckled. "You can stay, but not here. Come with me." I made them carry the pine cones and timber, forcing them to earn their keep. Halfway there, a wolf-ear youth roared in defiance, nearly dropping his load. The group stopped. I stepped forward. "You're not convinced?" The youth sneered, refusing to submit to a leader who couldn't Beastify. "I challenge you." I grinned. "We don't do that here. Chumo, someone is challenging my authority." Before the youth could react, Xiong Chumo roared and charged with his massive stone axe. The wolf-ear youth Beastified to dodge the falling axe, leaving a crater. Xiong Chumo glared with murderous intent, causing the wild gray wolf to crouch and growl, though it dared not attack. I suddenly threw a spear. The gray wolf, caught off guard, was pierced through the flank. It collapsed, reverted to human form, and began spitting blood. I scanned the remaining wolf-ear people, who lowered their heads. Londi showed no resentment, only resignation. The wolf race's rule was absolute. Once a challenge is issued, it is a fight to the death. "If you don't submit, you can leave," I declared. "But since you entered my territory, I'll give you a head start before my men hunt you down." Silence followed, save for my wolf sister, who looked at me with a fawning, worshipful smile. I ignored her. I disliked her personality, a typical green tea type, and resolved to keep a close watch on her. The wolf-ear group stared in awe at the 5-meter-high bamboo wall, stunned by its scale as rat-ear people dug defensive pits outside. Inside, the tribe was bustling. People carried bamboo baskets of fodder for the rock sheep and deer, greeting their leader warmly upon his return. I instructed Chun Yu to settle the wolf race in the eastern clearing, promising bamboo houses only if they proved their worth. That night, I, Xiao Maoiwe, and the panda-eared child chewed on chewing grass from the deer-ear tribe, a habit adopted by the tribe for oral hygiene. I rinsed my mouth with water. Though cavities were rare in this era, I remained vigilant about dental health. "Wash up," I told the children. "I'm heading to the kiln. No more mischief tonight." Xiao Maoiwe nodded obediently. At the kiln site, Ban sat by the cooling embers, eyes squinting. I tapped Ban's shoulder. Ban snapped awake and grinned. "Leader, it's done." Ban had remained at the kiln all day, even having his meals brought to him. Ban produced the clay mold containing a bronze dagger blank. I felt a surge of excitement, having waited for this moment. The bronze was a golden yellow hue. I tested the dagger's hardness. It held firm under significant pressure. The two spent the night polishing the blade, grinning like children with a new toy. I took the lead in forging, carefully hammering the heated bronze to thin the blade and refine its shape. After hours of work, the Chi tribe's first bronze dagger was complete. I swung the blade, cleanly slicing through a bamboo pole. "It's done," I roared. Ban was ecstatic, rolling on the ground in joy. The blade was sharper than stone and durable enough to be a superior weapon. Returning to my hut, I saw Chun Yu, Xiao Maoiwe, and the little squirrel sleeping. I mused. Winter is coming. We need beds. The next day, I had Xinyu help me conduct a census, using bamboo carvings to track the population and improve her arithmetic. Talent was scarce. Most struggled to grasp numbers as quickly as Chunyu and Xiao Maihua. The tribe now numbered 94, including the 15 new wolf-ear members, a significant size for this world. I assigned the 6 adult wolf-ear women to Chunyu, with Xiao Baozi assisting, to help them integrate and join foraging parties. The 7 children were required to spend half their day studying language. Longdi and the other man were tasked with digging defensive pits alongside the rat-ear group. Longdi complied, finally realizing the strength of the tribe I had built. They were awakened by the disciplined shouts of the hunting team, whose martial spirit rivaled that of seasoned beastkin warriors. Having survived several life-or-death battles, the tribe's men had developed a lethal edge. In the afternoon, I treated the injured wolf-ear members. One woman was in critical condition with an infected, festering wound. The wolf's sister brought water, sweating and nervous. She had learned that her status as sister meant nothing to me. "Call me when the water boils," I commanded. The wolf sister looked confused. I realized the wolf-ear tribe's language was primitive, akin to savages. I decided to integrate them into the children's language lessons. As I used a dagger to excise the woman's rotting flesh, the wolf-ear group panicked, fearing I was cannibalizing her. Longdi held back the others, trusting his brother despite the gruesome sight. I cleaned the wound with boiled water while the woman whimpered in pain. I applied the yellow mud obtained from the ruins, which I had been saving for emergencies. After applying the mud and crushed medicinal herbs, I prepared to bandage the wound with boiled linen. The wolf-ear people realized I was healing her, not killing her, and their skepticism turned to awe. Longdi and his sister watched with newfound hope. Suddenly, the little squirrel jumped onto my shoulder, gesturing and chattering. I asked, "What's wrong?" The squirrel hopped onto the patient, sniffed her, and dashed toward the storage hut. It returned with Xiao Maihua, who carried dried herbs. The squirrel selected specific pieces for me. 2 were familiar medicinal herbs used by the tribe. The third was an unknown lump. "Should I grind this?" I asked. The squirrel nodded, threw the lump into a pot, and had Xiao Maihua add a red fruit. I realized the squirrel was a holy beast of the pioneer race, possessing innate medical knowledge. After feeding the woman the decoction, I turned to Longdi. "I'm checking the others. Keep everyone away from her," I instructed. "Understood." I examined a child suffering from chronic diarrhea. Lacking a cure, I sought the squirrel's help. The squirrel signaled for them to head out. I brought Xiong Chumo along, finally keeping my promise to help him raid a beehive. I returned after half a day and brewed herbs with the little squirrel for the wolf-ear child. By the next day, the child had clearly improved, and I learned to identify a new medicinal plant. My medical success eased the wolf-ear tribe's worries. They began to respect my abilities, shedding their arrogant, beastkin attitude and reducing their resentment toward labor. A week passed, and the new wolf-ear members adapted to the Chi tribe. The women now wore grass skirts and understood modesty. Chen Yu's provision of ample food quickly secured their loyalty. "If you feed me, I will listen to you." This was the era's fundamental survival rule. Only the wolf sister remained dissatisfied, feeling overworked. Beyond learning the language, she spent evenings carving bamboo and heating water for the leader's bath. She felt bullied, but even her brother, Longdi, was too preoccupied with my training in spear throwing and bamboo archery to help. The tribe realized Longdi was merely gaining experience to eventually become the leader's right-hand man. Autumn hunting was vital for storage. The tribe used bamboo traps for fish, then smoked them over pine wood and salted them to ensure they lasted through winter. I also focused on livestock, hunting with Bao Jie to capture black rock sheep and over 20 wild chickens, keeping the slightly injured ones for breeding. As autumn rain brought a chill, I sat with Chun Yu and others on a wolf fur blanket by the fireplace, a rare moment of leisure. I tried to invent a game with bamboo pieces, but found it too complex, settling for bone dice to play a game of greater or lesser, which helped the women practice basic arithmetic. I had crafted a bronze axe from leftover ore, gifting a bronze dagger to Mao Yi, the tribe's scout, with the tribe's full approval. I also publicly gifted a captured rock sheep to Ban, who had helped me forge the bronze, declaring it my private property. I felt anxious that the pangolin had yet to be found and considered searching for it myself. You cheated, Chen Yu accused Xiao Baozi, pointing at his bamboo tube. She had seen him move the dice and, frustrated by losing, had a red mark on her forehead from a flick. Xiao Baozi remained expressionless. I didn't. Chen Yu sought reinforcements, hugging little Xiao Maoyue, who often snuggled into my arms for warmth during the cold. Maoyue, you saw it right. The cat ear lowly shook her head, fearing the fiercely cute Mian Mian. Chen Yu sighed, realizing the dim-witted red panda was no help either. I smiled. Open your tube. If you lose, you must accept it. Chen Yu bit her lip. She rarely acted spoiled anymore, feeling the weight of her responsibility as the leader's woman. Rapid footsteps interrupted them as Longdi shouted, "Leader, something happened in the South Forest." I rose, grabbing my spear. Longdi, wearing a bamboo hat and grass sandals, stood ready. The cold didn't bother the wild gray wolf race. This was Longdi's first patrol with Mao Yi. Chen Yu, previously pouting, naturally helped me tie my rope and adjust my hat. I patted the little rabbit's head. I'm going. Chen Yu kissed my cheek, whispering, "Be careful." Xiao Baozi looked away, envious of their bond, while Xiao Maoyue watched intently, as if learning. I whistled, gathering 6 men. As they reached the gate, the giant Xiong Chumo called out, "Wait for me." I slowed down. Xiong Chumo grinned, "Rare to see you out. It's autumn, I want to do something." I understood. The bearkin's instinct to store energy for winter was irresistible, even if they didn't truly hibernate. Crossing the Zhu River, they entered the South Forest. At the treehouse, a lynx-eared man reported, "Leader, Mao Yi is ahead. Keep watch, we're moving in." In the rainy forest, a rabbit-ear boy gasped in terror as a man with a spear approached. The boy had a stomach wound and looked hopeless. The boy collapsed against a tree, unable to beastify, and lost consciousness. Mao Yi kept his distance, following my rule to avoid dying strangers. He confirmed no other tracks were present. My group arrived. Mao Yi reported, "Leader, it's just one rabbit ear." I inspected the wound. "It's a bite." Xiong Chumo sniffed the air. "Can't smell anything." Mao Yi added, "He came from the south." I knew the south belonged to the pig-ear race, allies of the jackals. Seeing the boy's ears resembled Chen Yu's, he ordered, "Bring him back." Back at the tribe, I treated the wound. Chen Yu and Xiao Baozi came to look. "Ah." Chen Yu gasped, her eyes wide with shock. "What is it?" He looks like my mother." Chen Yu trembled. I held her hand, calming her as she touched the boy's ears. "It's him. Please, save him." I nodded. "I will try my best." Using their last bit of jade ginseng, I brewed a soup for the boy, leaving his fate to his own will to live. At sunset, Chen Yu sat with me. "Do you blame your mother?" I asked. Chen Yu shook her head. "She didn't want me to leave. It was my own choice." I understood. As a non-beastifying herbivore, she had likely left to avoid being a burden to her family. Mao Yi approached with a bold request. "I want to scout the south." Mao Yi was a loner who preferred the forest treehouse over the tribe. He was loyal and diligent, strictly following my orders. Remembering my past advice, he sought permission before acting. I hesitated, but Mao Yi's firm gaze, "Leader, I need to gather information," convinced me. Mao Yi wanted to ease the leader's worry about the southern instability. Knowing growth required experience, I agreed. 3 days. Take Qingyo with you. Return by then. Mao Yi smiled. Understood. The next day, they left equipped with the tribe's best gear, a bow, leather armor, and a bronze dagger. Longdi took over the patrol, while I led the women in crafting improved leather armor. They began reinforcing chest pieces with dried bamboo layers for better defense.